I will call this, what's today's date? April 9th. Joint Commission and Budget Committee meeting to order. And I believe if you'd like to call your.
Call the Knox County Budget Committee to order.
Great. And as we always do in the beginning of the meeting, we open it for public comment. Is there anyone from the public?
Pledge allegiance first.
Oh. Go ahead.
Can you join me? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States, to the republic for which it is, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thanks. Am I okay?
Yes.
Okay. As we always do, we open it up for public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to address the commission or the budget committee? Seeing as there's none, we'll move on to the agenda. First is to approve the minutes of the last meeting. And I don't know if you want to do it first and then second or.
Budget Committee, you have the notes from last meeting. Any errors or omissions that you can see in it?
I make a motion to approve. Second.
Okay. You just want to change just in the amount that the Budget Committee is voted to generate. Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Motion passes. Thank you.
From the commission side, do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
That's what I mean.
And it's been seconded. I will move that we're approving the amended minutes. Any further discussion? Seeing as is none, all those in favor? Okay, 3 in favor, none opposed. Next is the budget review, and the way we're going to structure this is basically the budget committee is the one that's doing the review. So we will follow the lead of the budget committee in terms of how you wish to proceed with the items. And then after you're done, the commission will discuss the same item afterwards, after you're done. I will just, for those people who are new members of the budget committee, what we're as a commission looking forward to is a thorough review of this budget. We're not looking for somebody to say the budget is too high. We think you should knock $1 million off of the budget. We're looking for some specific things. If you see something that sticks out, you don't understand about the budget and you need some kind of explanation, that's what we're here for. We have department heads here to help guide us through this process. But we're not looking for blanket statements of the budget's too high. We all know the budget's too high, but that's what it costs to run a government. And so we're looking for a collaborative process where you're helping us. Thank you. And I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. So communications up first.
So I actually have a presentation for you guys to help sort of explain a little bit about communications. So you have a better understanding of what services we provide, who we're providing them to, and why the budget looks like it does currently, right? I'm sorry, of course, the TV's over there, so you guys will probably put this one around. And I also am fighting off a cough and a cold, so I apologize. I am wearing a mask, so I'm not sharing it because I don't want to do that. Also, let me get you back over there. Okay, so as we all know, we're here for the fiscal year 2026 budget review. We're going to start with the Knox County Regional Communications Center. Keep in mind, even though this says we have a population of about 41,000 people, we have a really high transient population as well, when you take into account all the tourists. Okay, Maine Office of Tourism reports that there's about 7 to 8 million people that come through Maine every year, and the town or the city of Rockland alone handles about 1.3 of those people. 1.3 million extra people a year come through just Rockland. We are 18 municipalities, so we have a lot of potential extra people that we serve outside of just the 41,000 residents, okay? We also serve the 25 agencies for fire EMS. Who are we? We're the first responders, okay? Without us, nobody gets what they need because it all starts with a voice. People call 911, they call the admin lines, they're looking for help. If they don't know where to call, there's nobody to send help, okay? When someone calls 911, we're the first point of contact in all the emergencies. We know before police, fire, EMS even know. While we're taking that call, we're assessing a lot of information. The situation itself, we're giving life-saving instructions over the phone. We're making sure that the right resources are sent quickly and efficiently. We are the first responders because every emergency response starts with us. We also make sure our responders go home every day, every shift. That's what we're there for, all right? As I said, every emergency response in Knox County starts with us. We have 6 administrative lines that come into our center, and we have 4 911 consoles that we can sit at, along with 8 total 911 lines. We listen to 7 different radio channels, and we have the capacity to do more in the event that we have some sort of event going on, all right? 24/7 operations. We have 20 fire and EMS agencies we dispatch for, as well as 5 law enforcement agencies. And when it comes to us getting a phone call, there's a lot that goes into it. It's not just picking up the phone and saying hello. It starts with our call taker, who is, because the way that we are structured in Knox County, is usually the same person as the dispatcher, all right? That call taker is determining a lot of things. They are trying to find the location. Sometimes people don't know their location. So we have a lot of different, fortunately, we have a lot of different communications things that we can use to try and find people. Technology's done some amazing things to help us with that. And they're trying to find out what services these folks need, try to keep people calm in the middle of an emergency, try to make sure that they're giving life-saving measures, CPR, whatever, helping a drowning victim, all of those kinds of things. And at the same time, because of how small we are and the services that we provide, they're usually also dispatching that call. So while they're talking to the caller, they're also putting it out over the radio waves so that our responders know they have a call to go to, and updating them, as well as they're responding, the field responders are on their way, we're giving them updates while we're still on the phone. If it's a law enforcement call, we're giving them updates, we're still on the phone, and we're running these people through our computer systems to find out if it's some sort of a danger for the responders, to make sure that they're safe when they get there as well. So there's a lot of multitasking going on by our dispatchers. We kind of inherited a mess, okay? And it's at no fault of anybody here in this room. I started here October of 25, and there was a lot of issues. During a large portion of 2025, most days, most shifts, the county and its citizens relied on outside agencies just for us to stay operational. It was possible that if you were to call 911 in 2025, you weren't even speaking with somebody in Knox County, because the rollover would go to another county, and then services would get sent back to us via another phone call. I mean, it was very delayed. It wasn't perfect by any means, and we recognize that. There were days that the citizens of Knox County, like I said, they relied on one 911 dispatcher in the center, and if they weren't able to answer the call, it went to a neighboring county. So the severe staffing issues, we didn't have any training, that were certified trainers. It was a lot of, for lack of a better term, on-the-job training. There was no quality assurance, so we weren't sure that everybody was doing everything the same way, and like I said, we depended on a lot of outside personnel. We had off-duty sheriff's deputies, we had off-duty jail guards, we had off-duty Thomaston and Rockport police officers, EMS workers from other counties, dispatchers from other counties. Rockland PD's admin assistant was an absolute godsend. And of course, our own Knox County administrative assistant came in and actually was answering lines as well. We had a couple of full-time staff that were there kind of keeping it together, but it was definitely a disjointed sort of situation. So what we fixed was this. We had no training structure. We had no accountability for what was happening, and we were woefully understaffed. And now we are fully staffed. We have, in 2 weeks, we will have 5 certified trainers, not including myself. They've attended a week-long class. in it's called APCO, which is a nationally accredited agency that handles the standards, ANSI standards for how 911 centers across the nation actually function. So it's a very good class. And we also have a quality assurance program in place. And by that, I mean that our call taker, or the people that are taking phone calls actually get feedback on how they did, what they did, how they could do things differently, what sort of things they could change, what to do to make it better. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. So we need to fix it by standing by our professional standards, okay? Like I said, we're the lifeline for you and the responders. We give the life-saving measures over the phone. We deliver babies. We have CPR saves. If you're out cutting down a tree and you accidentally cut your leg with your chainsaw, it happens. People call 911, we're there to help you. That loss of blood could be life-changing for you. That's what we're trained to do. Real life consequences, and we're all held to a very high standard as any profession in any industry. Excuse me. The certifications that we're required to have are CPR, everybody's basically pretty familiar with that. Another one's called ETC, it's Emergency Telecommunications. That is a 40-hour class. EMD is Emergency Medical Dispatch, is required by the state. That is a 16-hour class that requires 24 hours of continued education every 2 years with a certification exam that you must get an 80 or plus on in order to pass. Same thing for the EFD. The TOC is a terminal operator certification, that's by the state, and that is so that we can access things like the FBI database. When you talk about you don't have security clearance or whatnot, that's what we're talking about. That's so we can maintain our security clearance, so that we can find out who's got a warrant out of New York State that we can extradite, who's dangerous, who's a gang member, who are the things that we need to keep everybody safe. Of course, MT911, that's our 911 system. Everything you see up there requires recertification. So if there's any credentialing that they need to have done or any extra classes that they need to take, hours of training, it's done while they're on the floor doing all of those other things that we've talked about, okay? Like I said, we are trained in a lot of different things. We actually kind of train as often as we can on these things here, on top of a billion other things. These are obviously the big ones. These are the kind of calls that make a very big difference. We're trained to recognize the need for pre-hospital care, and we can give those directions over the phone. In regard to CPR, we have a person in our center who just came to us from Saginaw. She is a Phoenix Award winner, and what that is a state-recognized award for CPR save. She took a 911 call, she gave direction over the phone on how to do CPR, and that person is alive and walking today because of her efforts, okay? We also have another dispatcher on the floor today who is up for the same exact award. She'll find out next week if she's going to be awarded the Phoenix Award. Because she also had a CPR save happen in Thomaston just a couple months ago. What she did saved that person's life, and their family is able to have them there every day because of it. We train big because we do big things. We also work on our responder safety, scene awareness, risk identification, making sure the people that we're sending our responders to go talk to are not a threat, because not everybody's a friend of law enforcement. But we also keep that in mind when it comes to fire and EMS. A lot of people don't think about fire and EMS being in danger when they go to somebody's house, but it is definitely a danger. Attacks happen to those responders every day as well, so we keep their safety in mind too. We also have our quality assurance, like I had mentioned. We do call review and a feedback system. Because our stakes are so high, we have an internal quality assurance and quality improvement system. Every communication in and out of the center is of course recorded. The state requires that we have a specific mandated group of calls that are scored, so to speak, by a third party, and they pay for it also, we don't have to do it. They have 25 of our medical calls, 15 of our fire calls are pulled randomly every week, so that not one person is getting picked on. We're kind of getting a nice cross-section of everybody. And that third-party agency reviews those calls based upon the standards that are set upon us by the state to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do, and we report them back to the state every single month. So anybody that falls below those guidelines, we work with them to train them, do what we can to make sure that their standards are where they're supposed to be. That way we're providing continuity of care and giving them the best that we possibly can. Our team members get their feedback every week so that they know if they're doing great, to keep it up. If they're not doing so great, what they need to fix. We've got a lot of training tools in place in dispatch now, so they can sit right there in their console and they can train on the things that they need to fix and figure out a better way to do things. We have a pretty good call volume when it comes into our center. This is last year's call volume. The blue lines that you see are calls coming in. The graph on the left shows you all of the lines, the numbers, the 593, 9132, et cetera, on the left-hand side. The top 6 are the admin lines, the bottom 2 are the 911 lines. Blue lines are calls coming in, green lines are calls going out. We had 40,000 admin calls into dispatch last year. Now mind you, at sometimes we had one person on the floor covering shifts. And we had over 15,000 911 calls. All right, that's a total of 55,408 calls coming into our center. That's a huge number. These are the amount of calls that we dispatched last year. So again, one person on the floor answering all those calls, doing all those things, trying to do all of that stuff. Thank God we had all those other people come in to help us, and we had the forethought to come up with all these different ways to make it work. But we dispatched over 44,000 calls for service last year. So with 2 dispatchers working on a shift, this is hard to maintain. And on a few occasions last year, there was only 1. All right, even maintaining this volume requires adequate staffing of 2 people on a floor is not it. This means that somebody can't go to the bathroom if they have to for a 12-hour shift, or run and get a drink, or go get a sandwich. You just don't know. The reality of what we were facing, I know that it says in the budget online that we have a 50% increase. That is not exactly true. This center was underfunded last year with the fact that the budget committee last year approved a $1.8 million budget. Once that budget was approved, the commission, not this commission, but last year's commission gave back $400,000 to the municipality. So basically gave a discount on their fees and assessments they put out there, which put it down to 1.4 million. So I'm asking for 2.1, and that's with the 2 positions. That's a 17% increase. That is not a 50% increase, okay? And again, on the right-hand side, it shows you that if you don't grant the 2 positions, if the 2 positions don't get granted, that's the difference in the equation. So here's what's shown in your budget today that you have on your page 3. And you'll see that there was also an undesignated fund reduction given in 2024. So between those 2 numbers, it actually kind of set us up a little bit in the negative, okay? If you look at what we spent last year, just a hair over 2 million, and I'll show you that's right here. You're gonna have to try to find it right there. Just a hair over 2 million was what got spent last year. I'm asking for $98,000 more than what we actually spent last year to make it work smoothly, more accountably, the way that it should. So they're now overworking everyone, and here's a comparison. I know that somebody last week had asked for some comparisons. Here's a little bit of what I have to show you. This is reported by the state of Maine. You'll notice that last year we had more 911 calls than Lincoln, Saginaw, and Waldo counties. Those are kind of the most closest ones that we have that also sort of mirror a little bit of what life is like in our county. So how do we compare to those folks? Well, Waldo County staff's 18. We have 12. They have 1 director, 4 supervisors, 1 quality assurance coordinator, and 12 dispatchers. And they're proposing 1.3. Saginaw has 19 employees, 1 director, 2 admin, 3 supervisors, 13 dispatchers, and they are operating this year at 1.7 million. Lincoln County is the one that has the same, they're 300 less than we did for 911 calls, so they're the closest as far as the volume of the work that is incoming and outgoing. They have 16 employees, a director, 1 assistant, 2 supervisors, 14 dispatchers, and they also have a $2 million budget, which is, I'm asking for 2.1. And that's to kind of get people trained up and squared away. So what is the solution? It's a simple one, actually. You need to staff our center, okay? If we have the 14 dispatchers, we could have a minimum of 3 persons on duty, which is helpful because if one person takes a structure fire and the other person is providing CPR, It makes it a whole lot easier for the third person to help with the regular traffic and all of the traffic stops that are happening and the other phone calls for the other situations. It is inherently just a thing. If you get one major incident, you're gonna have two more. I don't wanna bring up sad things, but when that little boy got hit by the school bus last year, I was in the center working because I was just new here and learning how the center itself worked. There were 4 of us in there because there was a per diem, one of the off-duty deputies was getting off shift. I was in there just learning, and our 911 lines lit up, as you can imagine, because of that situation. As we were getting help out for that situation, we took a 3-vehicle crash in Union on 17. It was nearly a fatal. They had to use jaws of life, 3 ambulances and 1 medevac. This happened at the same exact time as the bus accident here in Rockland. We had to handle all of that. And we also had a 911 call come in of a domestic violence situation where somebody was very injured and there was a weapon involved. All 3 of those incidences are major incidences just in and of themselves. We were very lucky to have the people on the floor that we did at that point in time. It was just a stroke of luck. Had we not, can you imagine? It would just, and it happens. It can happen any moment at any time. So 3 people on the floor at minimum is what's gonna help us make sure that those situations don't have a problem. If we can have the 2 extra positions staffed, there's a potential to put a floater person in, I don't have another name for it, that can help not only be a supervisor, but they're a 4th person during a peak something, anything. Unfortunately, we're kind of like good insurance. You kind of have to have us because you never know when something's gonna happen. And those 2 supervisors are gonna help put our whole puzzle together, okay? We're gonna hopefully go from fragmented to fully operational. That's my presentation.
Okay, does anyone have questions?
Thank you. Also, too, I wanna say, I opened my door, like I said, to any of you that want to come in, and we had a nurse today from Penn Bay ER. She had asked to come in to kind of get a feel for what was going on, and she came in and she sat for a couple hours today. So, by all means, you're all welcome. I know that George has been there already, but
I have a question regarding
Sure.
numbers, because a lot of this, well, I think everything is new to me.
yes,
So you have 15,400 911 calls roughly,
yes,
and 40,000 dispatch events.
yes.
Why is this number so much big?
Dispatch event comes in on a 911 line. There will be people totally serious, having an absolute heart attack and they know it, and they will call the admin line and go through the phone tree because they don't want to bother us. And so it is not abnormal to get an absolute emergency on an admin, or we could have an officer just driving somewhere and witness a car crash. And be like, oh my gosh, you need to get help here now, I've got, carpentry and blood everywhere, and so, I mean, that turns into catastrophic right now, so. Not all calls come in on 911.
With the factor of 3 being extremely high, but that's what it is.
It's crazy how it works, but it's a very, factor 3 is a very true thing.
Okay. Will we be going through the numbers, or is this, do we do this?
However, I'm
Okay,
here for you.
If you have questions on particular.
yes, I do. Right, the budget. And headcounts, you mentioned 14 here, and also in the plan. Does this include the 14 that you plan to hire in addition?
So I have 12, I want 2 more. So that's all of us, 14.
Okay, 14 is today. And how many were there 2023, just to get a feeling?
So so the total headcount does include all positions within communications. Yes, yeah, so, but not the 2 additional, right? So the 2 additional would bring that to a 16% headcount. Yes.
Oh, sorry.
In 2023, we were at a 14 headcount as well, same,
When you say headcount, you mean FTEs, right?
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
So also, I can speak to in 24, 25, I know that there was a change in wages. This is a position that you can't hire people at minimum wage to do this job. For obvious reasons. They are sitting there for a 12-hour shift in a room that they can't leave. And every time that phone rings, every time that phone rings, they have to be prepared to handle your worst day, and then your worst day, and then his worst day, and then his worst day. And you cannot pay somebody minimum wage to come in there and expect every second of their 12-hour shift to be everybody's worst day, and expect any kind of longevity. You'll have turnover that will end up costing the county a lot more money. So wages for 911 dispatchers are higher than.
So essentially, the headcount is kind of stable. You will
Yes.
add two more, but the qualification.
Yep.
That's what drove the cost from 23 to 13. Okay.
Do you have 2 people in mind for those positions, or?
So I actually have applicants just waiting for positions. They haven't gone through the whole hiring process, but I have applicants just waiting.
Yeah, because one of the things we've done in the city is kind of stagger out the hiring, so we have
Yes.
6 months between each one.
Well, and we would almost kind of have to do that anyway, just because of the time that it takes to train somebody and get them to the point where they don't need like one-on-one all of the time. One-on-one training takes somebody off a console, answering the phones and answering the radios and all that kind of thing. And so if we have 2 at once, it gets kind of overwhelming. We get somebody through a certain point, they can move on to the next trainer and move the next phase, and then we can start staggering in our trainings, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, so is the cost here up for 2 employees for 12 months?
No, the cost here includes the employees as though we were hiring them on August 1st.
Okay.
When you say actual draft, that is the estimate, or what is draft? For
So
2025.
Yeah, because we haven't officially closed out
Okay,
25,
so
so
it's
it's
an
as
estimate.
as close as we can be right now.
Okay. So is it realistic to assume that overtime goes down from you had around 300,000, then in 25, 370,000, now you say 150,000? Or this been? Yeah,
But the overtime is one of those things in a communications center, it's difficult to predict. We never know when an emergency is gonna happen. I can tell you right now, if they happen to be at home and some sort of a mass casualty thing happens, they're gonna send a page out to the CAD, we're all gonna get a page, and everybody that's available is coming, we're gonna meet them. Weather events, inclement weather events. Offices tend to close, they don't want their employees out there driving around in 3 feet of snow, guess what? We all gotta come to work and we need extra people because our workload just doubled. So I can predict overtime to a degree, like holidays and Lobster Fest, all that kind of stuff, but there's a lot of, well, this is what we did last year. That's kind of what we're gonna do this year, so.
so there's no, well,
I'll-
going down from the 300 long-term level to 150 sounds like a systematic improvement, but that's not what we're hearing.
Yeah.
We are talking statistics,
Yeah.
so it's more likely again at 300,000.
So last year, well, I would think, for the past few years, we've been so understaffed. We had people working anywhere from 120 hours in a week, right? They get paid for 40, all of that extra is overtime because there was nobody else. So that overtime line was extremely high. We're fully staffed now, so people should be doing their 40, going home. And then as Jessica's mentioning, it's just when we have holidays, when we need to bring a body in, if somebody goes on vacation, just to backfill. So the more typical overtime and not preparing to be working people that long of a shift per
Right.
week. So that's the big shift, is we actually have people coming to work and working 40 hours per week, and not incurring as much overtime.
And I can actually provide a little insight to that a little further today, right now, because of us being full staffed. It's kind of, we've got a weird shift and it's kind of a staggered sort of situation. One of my night shift people called out sick. So one of my people that comes in late in the afternoon to help cover the busy part of the day, we just shifted her a little bit. And so she's covering most of that shift. And so it kind of just slides it so that I don't have to have all of the overtime necessarily to cover somebody going out sick. And so the 12 people also helps mitigate that problem too.
Well, let me explain why I'm
Sure.
kind of feel not comfortable with the number. When I look at the total number, there's a history of massive budget override or massive increasing, like in the first year, and I'm looking at the actuals, not the budget.
Right.
So the first, from 23 to 24, the center spent more, up 13.4%. Then the year thereafter, 24.8%. Now I see you want to hire 2 additional, but the headcount cost goes down. Salaries and wages goes down from 1.35 to 1.26. So I wonder, do we already budget in the next override? And I'd like to get out of that pattern because it seems we are cheating ourselves.
Sure.
Yeah.
We actually had a conversation about this just today, and how we are gonna keep from not exceeding that number. So, July 1st, I'm putting out a schedule, I've actually just put it out this afternoon for them to bid on, that is a 40-hour week schedule, boom, 3 people on a shift. And the way that it works, there's always 3 people on duty. If somebody called out sick, and for some reason I couldn't cover it, let's say, for whatever reason, somebody's on vacation or whatever, there are still at least 2 people on the floor. They can operate with 2 people on the floor. It cannot be a norm, but they can operate with 2 people on the floor in a pinch. Does that make sense? And it wouldn't be a norm with all that. I don't see it getting higher than that unless something absolutely catastrophic happens.
Okay. So this year is different.
This year's different.
Okay.
People are staying.
Okay.
Last year, well, how many people came and went last year? And how expensive it is to onboard a new person? 30,000?
Yeah.
Maybe? So you have to think of that. And then plus, you've got the training hours and you've got overtime just to cover the shift itself. And so people are staying and people are getting training. They're getting to do things that make them feel important because they are. And they're showing that they're valued and they're a part of the team. They help make some of the decisions that they can help make. And so the fact that they feel valued makes them stay. And I mean, you don't want to stay somewhere where you feel like you just, whatever, I just come to work and they just, whatever, I'm unhappy. So they're happy and it's working.
Okay, so.
And I'll add something to
Yeah,
it.
sorry.
24 and 25 are absolute outliers. The call center crashed in late 23. So even 23 numbers in actuals aren't based on normal operations.
Okay.
So they were bringing people in, they were paying a high amount for people to come in, stipends and per diems. So you can't look at 24 for sure and 25 for sure and compare the actuals to what it should be and what it could be in the future.
So you
It was a mess. It was a mess.
So you were in the budget committee before you lived through these numbers, so to speak?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So do you feel comfortable that the 4.6 increase that they actually planned for, I think it's 4.6, yeah, from the actuals 25 to the budget 26, you are comfortable that this number will be met?
There are some, I still have some questions inside the budget.
Okay.
But for the personnel part of it, I'm very comfortable.
Okay.
And my only real question was the overtime and whether they had scaled that back enough.
Okay.
And I think they did.
Yeah, a lot actually, yeah.
So on the personnel side, 2 issues. One is I'm comfortable with what they have, even if it were my department. But the other thing is, on the personnel side, that's almost exclusively their responsibility. Budget committee has very little input on wages, number of people. All we're doing is recommending to them, but we don't determine how many people or how much they get paid. That's not part of our budget process. It's part of our sticker shock. And it's part of us looking at the rest of it going, can we make some changes somewhere else to cover the increase? But we are not chartered the personnel side.
We can ask critical questions.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Jessica, a couple of questions. On the 150,000, how many hours does that represent?
I don't think you can actually break that down,
Well,
because
my-
everyone's at a different hourly wage. At times, if someone's already on a 40-hour work week and there's a holiday that falls, 8 hours straight fall to overtime at a straight rate, then you have people that are working a holiday, then you have a couple of double holidays. So it's not that easy to just come into that number. I mean, we could do a very high level and say 3 hours posted to that and assume it's at an hour overtime rate always, but that's not the case.
Let me pose the question this way. we hired another person, instead of two, we hired three. Is there a substantial savings to that 150?
I don't see that there'd be a savings to that.
The problem is the statistics. You might have to go up 2-3 people for a week. And you don't want to have these guys hang around all the time when nothing is going on. So I understand you need to breathe into something to compensate for the statistical fluctuation.
Right.
And that's overtime. So essentially your answer is we cannot plan it, and that's what you said, and the number 150 could be 0, could be 500.
Oh,
We just,
and if
well,
something catastrophic happens, let's not hope that.
Yeah, I think to expand upon that, and one of the things we were meeting on today is that the difference is we have not been full staff, I will say 10 years, if not more. So being full staffed, we can now look at how many holidays fall, how many events fall, take into account how many vacations are gonna happen, and really look at those numbers, which in the past we couldn't because we didn't have a true full staff or even we couldn't
Those
even
two.
project a staffing model. It was very reactionary. So I think we're in a very good place this year, and as much as I was the first one to challenge the 150 and did the calculations out and we met on it, and we talked about schedules, I'm comfortable that that's the right number.
You challenged it which way? You thought it was too high or?
I thought it was too low based on my initial assumptions, based on what we were looking at today.
Yeah, because I'm looking at like 24, 25. Budget committee. Looks like they got it wrong every year.
Well, 2025, there were 4 employees that were actual Knox County employees. And they had worked, so they had to work a 40-hour week. Anything above that is overtime. They were working, I can tell you there is one who actually left in December, who was bragging about all the overtime, and he worked a ton of overtime. He literally worked a ton of overtime. He was bragging how he had a $200,000 year because of, but he lived in the center. I mean, there's zero quality of life there. And to the point where he's burnt out, to the point he had to leave. He just couldn't do it anymore. And so last year and 2024 it's almost like this year, as long as everything goes the way that it looks like it's going, this will be the year we'll have actual data to kind of build from. Because the last 2 years have been, as somebody said, reactionary. Just been, oh my God, we gotta keep this running. Are we gonna be able to do it? What do we do? I don't know. It was a lot of just throw what we can at it to make it work, which is again, I came in October of 25. From what I'm seeing from all the historical data, that's what they have to do. To just, because it's actually more expensive to lose the primary answering point for 911 center out of your county and have it to go somewhere else, because you still have to pay for those services in your county. But now you also have to pay another county to provide those services for you as well. And so it's so much more sensible to figure out a way to save what you have. And then once it's gone, it's gone. It's not easy or cheap. I shouldn't say cheap, that's not the right word, but it's economically irresponsible to even try to get it back. So as big as the mess it was, the 25 and the 24, I think this is the year that you're gonna have some actual real data that you'll be able to say, okay, now we should be able to build.
I have a critical question towards the commission, if I may. I'm hearing a lot of satisfaction with the staffing level we have reached. And how do you measure that it's not overdone, that it's, not too comfortable? Usually I like to hear, well, it's just a little bit of complaints that we are still slightly understaffed. I think that might be a better working level.
I can say a couple things. One, when you asked about 2023, and you said, was it the same staffing? And you said, yes, the desire was to have the same staffing, but as Kathy mentioned, it's been understaffed for years. There were, the commission this year made some severe changes in procedures and management changes. We could not keep staff before. People would come and then leave, and we couldn't get people to come. With new management, we now have a situation where we become the place where people want to come to work. And so it's a new culture. Speaking to what you say about staffing, the hard part for I think to understand is when you say 12 people or 14 people or 16 people, it's 24/7, 365. And when dealing with public safety, you can't say understaffing is good, because it's probably one of the most important jobs that any government agency provides. You know, as Jessica said in the presentation, if they don't handle the call properly, somebody dies. And we can't, of all the things that we're responsible for, this has got to be number one. And you can't be understaffed, especially when you're running something 24/7, 365, and you have to have those people there. There's no time when you can say, sorry, the line is busy. And, you know, other situations, other departments, perhaps, other situations, it's tough for the county because all we do is provide service. The towns provide a lot of other things where maybe we don't want to plant as many trees this year, something, but this is the one thing where, and my EMS and my, law enforcement training in EMS, I was an EMT and a sheriff's deputy, go back 30 years. And it's essential. It's the most important thing we provide.
Let me try to answer the question
Better
in
than,
terms of balance. We've had a number of people over the years, outside experts look at the department and have said, 14 to 17 people, I think was the number that we've gotten a number of times to run a department like this size. When you touch on what is overtime versus full-time pay, you know that you're probably if you had too many employees, you'd have no overtime. You have people sitting around who do nothing, but they're waiting for that one emergency call, so you'd have no overtime. That balance comes, you need overtime to make up for the fact that you don't have quite enough people for the times that you're really busy, but you have enough people for most of the time. So as long as there's some overtime, it tells you that you're not overstaffed, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Thank you. Well,
I've got a quick one. So this is an unusual year because you have 3 months of what this year has already done. So I'm assuming, I'm not gonna say it for all the other departments, you're the first department, so a lot of my questions are gonna be in this part of it, and they apply to all of them, but you did take a look at the first 3 months and bake those in, the reality of the first 3 months into your numbers.
Yes, and I will say where overtime is the hotter topic here is that I think you're now forecasting a third schedule change, if I'm not
I
mistaken.
just put it out there.
In order to find the right blend that will minimize the amount of overtime that will happen and still staff at appropriate levels. Yeah, so it's been it's still transitional, but I think that Jessica's been making adjustments and has been open to suggestions, and it'll be a much stronger year.
And I can also add a little bit more to that too, when I started here. So first of all, this department also, up until September, had a union. And so there's a collective bargaining agreement that the county is still taking into account and living up to till the end of this year, while they change their union. And so when I started here, they were working a 2-2-3 schedule, which I'm not even gonna try to explain it to you because it took me like a month to figure out. But it has 8 hours of overtime built in for every person, for every payroll. And the very first Amber can speak to this, the very first thing that I said when I heard that, I said, that is financially irresponsible and we need to fix that. And so 2 months ago, I put out a schedule change where we've now reduced it starting April 1, because I can't just change it and say tomorrow you're doing this, because people have lives and appointments and whatever. So 2 months ago, we had this big change where we moved it starting April 1, where they only have 4 hours of built-in overtime. But now that we have the staffing and the manning, and we've got 2 trainees, one of them almost done, July 1, we are going to 40 hours a week, everybody. And so that should significantly, well, it's gonna take out the whole built-in overtime. And it's only gonna be the overtime for the sick or the vacation or the whatever, and it's gonna significantly reduce that overtime line. So I'm very comfortable in that number, and I think it's, we might hit it, but I don't feel like we're gonna exceed it.
Well, since you touched on union negotiations, one of your big increases this year is going to be in legal and labor relations. I mean, the previous years, it's like $4,000 budgeted and 36,000 spent.
Well,
And so you got 15,000 this year, so, and that's because you're changing unions or you're doing away with it? I've heard
I'll
that.
let you speak to the lady line.
And this may not even be the right ones.
No, I think, we had a lot of unexpected things in the past couple of years when it comes to legal needs around the communications department. The union in the communications department has historically always had to involve legal. And I won't say any more on that. So we're using a little bit of what we've done in the past, but we're dwindling it down as much as possible, but we don't want to be surprised. We want to have a cushion, because if we do go into negotiations and there's big changes, we may have to get legal involved if that's where we're going. Employees have legal matters at times, right? So we can't plan for everything. So although we spent almost 37,000 and we're hoping not to spend even close to 15,000, we definitely want a cushion because of just a lot of new this year.
I think with this budget too, and I think I've said it maybe a couple of times and I can't stress enough, there's no undesignated. So if this budget goes over this year, there's nothing to pull from it. So in certain cases, I would say legal we're not sure what will happen with the union, but we have to build that in because there's nothing to pull from.
The other thing that's, you used to have, and I'm speaking way back, you used to have reserve accounts for legal, computers, those kind of things that you need a cushion for. And you're not
We have
really positive.
depleted every single thing that was available in '25. And some you may not see it on the report that's in there because some trickled into '26 but applied back to '25. So we have nothing else to pull for that,
And
those
that's like-
kind of departments.
That applies to computers
Yes.
for all of them. The other thing is, this one has TAN. Are you now dividing TAN out amongst the departments?
We have in past years divided the TAN out with the funds, so corrections and airport and general fund. For some reason, communications was not in that mix until last year. So in order to be equitable across the funds, they need to participate.
John,
Yeah, I'm uncomfortable with the total number, quite honestly. It goes up every single year. It's just unsustainable for the towns. So what can we do to cut that cost?
Well, I can tell you that part of the number going up, like I already told you what we spent last year to save the center, and what I'm asking for now, it's less than $100,000 difference. And there's a lot of things in there that you can look at, tower fees, electric, phones, that kind of stuff. We have zero control over any of those. The only things that we have control over is things like overtime and per diem. Obviously that whole second area, the FICA, the health insurance, those are numbers that only depend on how many people we have, how many FTEs that we have. And then there's a formula she puts in there and then she gives you those numbers. So those numbers, there's nothing I can do. I can't adjust those at all. The same thing goes for some of the stuff down at the second part of it. Audit, TAN, consultant, legal. Well, legal, obviously we can, but given the past and what we're expecting for the future, that's why we put in the 15,000. Auto mileage, that is, we used to actually, because they were trying to save the center and pay people to come from outside areas, they would pay people to come to work mileage. We're not doing that anymore. The mileage that you see now is the people that have to go to Augusta for mandatory state training. The EMD, the EFD, the TOC, the 911, the state mandates every single one of my employees to do that, and they only can do it in Augusta at GPS. And so we have to pay them mileage for that. I can't get around that either. We have to pay them what the federal government says is what we have to pay them for tax mileage. Am I correct, Kathy? And that is the number that the federal government gives to us.
Yes.
I can't go around that number either. The number that I put in here is my best guess. Hoping I don't have to send, hopefully this schedule change, marking everybody down to 40 hours a week is enough to make everybody be like, you know what, nope, I like my overtime, I'm walking. And then I have to train 12 new people. That number, that'll change if that happens. So I kind of have to keep that in account as well, okay? When it comes to lodging, meals, food, airfare, that kind of stuff, I'm not sending anybody anywhere they have to fly to. I'm not going anywhere that I would make the county pay for to fly. Lodging and et cetera, we did have a training that we sent some people to in Cumberland County. They went and unfortunately we got snowed there. So guess what? That's not normal. Typically everybody goes to Augusta, but this one training was available for us to send people to Cumberland County, so they went. They were gonna drive, but then they got snowed there. So we had to pay it overnight. Some of these things, we don't have a lot, that we can actually do anything with. Tower rental, phones, the tolls for the ferry, that is not even for us. That's so that they can go and maintain our towers out there. I have no control over that either. Advertising, that's dropped. We don't need to advertise. We're doing pretty well without it. And so we had a little bit of advertising, that had already been done earlier in the year, and that was the Indeed, listing, the posting that we had, because usually communication centers always run a post. We've taken it down because I don't need to be spending money on advertising. Dues and memberships, those are for things like professional organizations like NINA and APCO and things that have to be maintained, in order just in the industry. There are things that they have to have during the training and seminars. I look for every single every training I possibly can. I need trainers. This on-the-job training has shown us historically by the numbers that you have, it doesn't work. Teaching somebody how to do this job when you've never been trained how to teach somebody how to do this job is ineffective. And so there's a lot of these numbers that we really don't have a whole lot of move in them. It's unfortunate. The cost of everything has gone up. Your insurance has probably gone up, your electricity's probably gone up, gas has gone up, food has gone up. Same thing applies here. Anything that we need that the must have, like electricity, telephones, radio towers, insurance, we're no different. So I don't disagree, but when you look at what the budget was last year, $400,000 got given back. I don't say given back, it never really went anywhere, but.
Well, when you say I don't disagree, I understood the past few years was catching up or getting rid of an unfunctional situation. And none of us would want to dial 911 and not talk to someone.
Or somebody on the line that doesn't know how to do the job.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've been in mission critical communication, and I know a firefighter only goes into a building when he has a voice line out. Otherwise, they don't go in. And when I do the math, it's $52 per resident. And I take these costs into 41,000. And I don't know whether we want to go down to $35 and have busy lines or so. I think we have a communication. Oh no, let me come back to that. So the actual increase is 4.6%. Now I would say if this is a realistic number, we actually come into a sustainable mode because that's close to inflation. So your answer, I hope, is we are now at the cruising altitude. We have reached the functional level, and we are now talking about inflation changes moving forward. And that would be sustainable.
One exception would be the two personnel.
well, right,
So next year, there'll be a full year instead of.
right. Go ahead.
I would really still like to see more counties involved. Have you dispatch for 4 other counties? Look into that.
Well,
To get a cost savings
That's a
for
state.
all of them.
yeah, that's not a me issue, that's a state issue. And
But it will become a you issue if we cut this budget.
true.
And you're gonna be losing people and
I mean,
basically,
people
and the center will close.
yes,
So
it will.
we really need to have someone looking at this, because it's unsustainable the way it is now.
And I don't disagree with that last week, that
Exactly.
we have had the talks about maybe talking to some other centers where we can start combining work, because trust me, I recognize that. And if you recall in my presentation, Saginaw Hawkins says that it's proposed, theirs is not approved. Waldo is having a problem, theirs is not approved. Washington is having a problem, theirs is not approved. We are doing great. People are coming to us. We have the capability, the technology, and the personnel.
No, I'd like to see us take advantage of that, because, I mean, you contacted Hancock or Washington County and told them that you're gonna save them a bunch of money by you providing their dispatch
Absolutely
service.
agree with you. However, I have to fix what's broken here first. I have to fix what's broken here first, and I can't do it overnight. It wasn't broken overnight, I cannot fix it overnight. And this is definitely something that I have in the back of my mind, we've talked about it since October. And Bob, who does the radios, we've talked about this, that it being going forward, but right now, this is to fix what's broken.
Your wages are being driven by your Walmarts, your Dollar Generals. You go to Dollar General, I bet you they're making just about as much money as one of these dispatchers are entry. Well, you know what, you know how they get their money? They charge you more to buy groceries there. So unfortunately, if you wanna get good quality people, you're gonna have to pay for it.
I don't have a problem paying the people. I just think that we could cut costs way down for county residents by expanding the dispatch to a bunch of other counties.
I don't disagree.
I think that should be looked into.
It-
And I'd like to see an action plan for that.
But you're hearing me, right now, I have no plan how to fix what's broken here. I can't do it overnight. This is what I'm expecting to do this year.
Ma'am, I've been through this for probably 15 years now on budget committees, and it's always the same, that this is gonna fix it, and next year, there's gonna be another 10% increase.
So there actually might be, because I don't know what the telegram is gonna be, I don't know what electricity is gonna do.
And that's just, it's becoming unsustainable for the taxpayers. It really is, we're going to have to do something, and we should be looking, get ahead of it, not behind it.
I don't need to be.
Then, unfortunately, you're gonna have to go to the state to fight that.
If I can follow up on what John is saying. This is a battle that not only you're going through, we're going through it in Thomaston. Rockport's going through it as well. And I've been preaching for the past 2 years at the rate we're going, taxpayers' taxes are gonna double every 6 years. If a person paying $4,000 last year will be paying $8,000 in 5 more years, and then another 6 years, they're gonna be paying $16,000. The thing that we need to do, what all the communities need to do, and all the counties need to do, is we need to come together to figure out how we can save on our costs and increase revenue. We're starting down this road now with Thomaston, and trying to get people together to meet with other communities to work on that, but that's the only way I see around it. I mean, and I think your ideas are right, that we bring the counties together, it's maybe one does a day shift, another one does a night shift, or whatever, but to see how we can cut costs, because this is unsustainable, as you said.
And I absolutely agree with both of you, I do.
Yeah.
However, right now, I am operating a center where I am the only supervision for all of these people, okay? So since I've come on in October, guess what my focus has been? This. Every day, there's something different. Every day, there's something new. Every day, there's a change or something, and I'm telling this. I'm trying to hire new people, train the old ones, fix what's broken. I've got policies that are 15 years old that are going to be a problem for this county if they don't get fixed. Because if something happens and that goes into litigation, that's gonna fall on the county. And I'm trying to fix so many broken systems, I could spend an hour in here just explaining that to you. I absolutely, hold on, just one minute. I absolutely agree with you that this, if we keep dumping and bumping and bumping, that's gonna be enough. I'm a taxpayer, I understand that, I absolutely do. I feel like, if we could get this under control, I would like to take a look at asking some of those other counties, okay, you're having some problems, how about if we fix those for you? Let's do this, let's work on this plan and actually make it so that they pay us revenue to provide these services, which will drive our costs down. This is not really a revenue stream for any county, but it can be. I come from a center that has contracts with towns and outside, I come from Alaska, their boroughs. They have 2 other boroughs that pay for one center to do other dispatching. And those boroughs, those counties pay very well for this one center to be their answering point and to provide those services. And that is their funding revenue. And they are a center that's very similar in the size that we have here. And they they have a really nice revenue stream because of that, so I agree with you.
To be clear, I think you're doing a great job. I mean, and that wasn't where I was headed. Everyone, it's just the cost, the sheer numbers. That's all I was saying about. It wasn't the quality of the work or you at all.
I didn't take it personally,
Yeah.
I'm just letting you know. that
Yeah.
Definitely working on it, I agree.
If you're willing to go forward and pursue other counties, I mean, I wouldn't have an issue with what you propose, quite honestly.
But I think to Jessica's point, in order to do that, to have that conversation, we have to be good internally, right?
Yeah.
We're close. We've been talking about it since she's been hired. I think last year when Mr. Erickson came on was really when we started talking about joining towns together to discuss this kind of stuff. So it's a new conversation. I want to have it. I think we all want to have it. And I think we'll hear a little bit more in other budgets about what that could look like. But it's always on the top of our mind, I promise. We just haven't been in a good place in the county for a while, especially with communications. So we just need to prove ourselves, build that trust, and then try and go out and do more things.
Well, you mentioned about state funding. What is their formula, or is there one, or is it just willy-nilly like everything else?
The state doesn't really fund a whole lot of anything. They pay for the mandatory training that we have to have, which is the EMD, the EFD, the ETC, the 911, and the TOC, and I know that, well, actually, TOC we pay for. But TOC, we have to, and we have to have them go. But the state pays for most of that. They pay for the part of the expensive part of our quality assurance. They pay for some of the computer software programs that we use. They pay for our 911, our phone system, the entire system. They pay for that. The computers, the monitors, the mics, all of that stuff the state pays for. So they actually are quite they're not a funding source in the sense of revenue, but they actually fund a lot of the things that we need to make things work.
Okay, I'm just curious, because you mentioned it, and I didn't know where it came in,
Oh, yeah, no. And one more thing to talk about your other point was they actually have a 911 consolidation grant, where if we can ever get to the point, we can actually perhaps apply for a grant to consolidate with another center. So there is stuff out there, we've just gotta be in place, like Amber said, a good place to kind of build up from there.
okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Along that line, Lincoln County pays $61 per inhabitant. So here's a $10 windfall.
That's what, because we provide your EMS service.
I have one last question, if I may. Our personnel costs go slightly down in the plan, but the healthcare costs double.
That would be a finance question.
Healthcare, what's budgeted there is based on the actual individuals filling the role and what plan that they take. So depending on whenever an employee turns over, they may have been on a single plan, they're now on a family plan. We also had a 12% increase in our health insurance this year.
So that net is doubling.
We may have, in that particular department, may have had a lot of singles that turned over that then became a family plan. So yes, that could essentially make it double. Or people that didn't take insurance that now did, people that got married and now they're adding a spouse. So the number is truly based on who's in the positions and what plan do they currently have as of the drafting of the budget.
And again, I think
Workers' comp went down. Workers' comp went down in this budget. Is that counting what they kick back to you at the end of the year, or is this a decrease in the rate? Because you've got more personnel, but lower.
It's a decrease in the rate.
Nicole has questions.
I'd like to see it reduced to at least 4% increase, so if we're at 4.6, bring it down to 4 to get it closer to inflation. I think you could cut right off for legal and labor, the wage payments down to 10. I know these aren't big cuts, but they're something. I don't see why auto mileage is up from 5,000 to 11. I think you get that down to 6. I don't know what you do with equipment and repairs, or if there's any grants available for that, or the computer supplies too, I think I have it marked. And then also on the training, it doesn't look like you've ever hit 2,000, so we didn't that down to it.
And that's because we've had untrained staff.
Okay,
and people are doing the training, like I said.
okay,
3 weeks ago, I sent 2 people to become certified trainers. They went to a whole week class. And in 2 weeks, and I had to pay for that one. I only had to pay $475, but I had to pay for that one. And I got 2 people going again in another 2 weeks. I'm trying to find the free trainings. Sometimes, you know, might be a little nominal fee, but, so I don't know, because the training is the one thing that this team spoke of that they really wanted the most. And that goes back to keeping people happy in a way that not only is good for the center, but is good for the team, because they feel like valuable people, and that just makes sure got, so that was kind of a, I don't wanna say guesstimate, but it's kind of a guess, because I don't know what all trainings are gonna come up. The state throws a lot of stuff at us, hey, we got this training coming, hey, you know what I mean, and so.
And also just, we had 3 to 4 employees last year, we have 12 now, so the training, you know, that will probably meet the budget. We haven't had a full staff, so a lot of these numbers, we're doing our best to assume what it will be, but to Kathy's point, we have no cushion. So if anything goes wrong, we have nothing to recover. So I think that's just a really important point, not that we inflated any of these, but this is the first time we've had a full staff. We don't know, we're hoping to obviously stay in these parameters and even come under, but we're a little blind, honestly, in some of this, and we're doing just our best to project based on full time. And also just being careful because we have no safety net going into 2027.
but then on the slides, you had shown the counties broken out, by how many calls each county have done.
Yeah.
To look in, think the others would have done. But the way it was, I don't see it right now.
You wanna pull it up?
No, that's okay, but I think it had gone up significantly, and I'd like to see how much of that is crime, considering we're gonna be talking about the DA budget, and I am a little bit nervous about.
Well, in the dispatched calls, there's the volume of law calls that actually, but that's last year.
I don't know the process of the budget, this is my first time, so maybe I can speak to it, but if we could actually come back to that, I'd love to hear, how much of that is crime of repeat offenders, because I know that specifically we're watching people get out of jail for massive crime, burning a body. And so I would love to see how much of that is coming from crime specifically.
Sure, and that would be something I'd have to run. We could do that. Just trying to find that, so I could-
And our juvenile issue, obviously, was big.
A lot of that is gonna have to come on the sheriff's department, looking at repeat offenders, because there's times the dispatcher might not even know who the offender is.
Yeah, okay,
Until-
and Carol breaks it down. for
Yeah.
us.
So that breakdown's gonna come from you guys, more so than here, because, we run people, but it's not a tracking thing that we run, where these guys have better access to tracking numerous people.
You also have frequent people that use the 911 system for overdoses and repeated visits of EMS and law enforcement. Because usually it's a dual visit with law enforcement and EMS. And so we could reach out to EMS and try to figure out how many times, for instance, obviously you can't say where, or maybe just the town, that you've had to go to a repeated residence. Aside from that,
But there's the stats too, for the dispatch law calls, 36,000 law calls. Okay, now that is not gonna be just the stuff that we dispatch, also gonna be traffic stops and accidents that they may come across or other things, but for every single one of those, it's radio traffic and it's workload, so.
So the sheriffs would be able to say year over year how much that's increased, possibly.
They should be able to, yeah.
For the sheriff department, just remember, we're also dispatching for Chief Carroll and Rockport and Camden and Thomas, and so those numbers reflect all the agencies, they don't reflect just the county numbers.
Right.
So you gotta kind of separate it out a little bit. So, because county law enforcement's your concern here, but the dispatch handles all of it. So.
Any other question?
I have one last one. So the other anomaly in this year's budget is the computer supplies line.
Well, that's actually, you're gonna find that across every single department.
And I
Yeah.
did, that's why I'm hurting.
And that's because we had ARPA funds that was paying for replacement computers and printers and monitors. So now the rotation is now in every department's budget. And we also have to replace office licenses this year across every single department in that line. So this will be the same thing across everyone.
But the thing is, it's gonna happen again in another, unless we do some kind of phasing.
Well, and I think we have this discussion every year in the budget as far as that, we can fund this out of a grant, we can fund this out of ARPA, but it's temporary, and this is then gonna be added to the budget. The same thing with, we can use undesignated funds, the 400,000 to reduce this year, and every year it's, let's take care of this year to, impact the taxpayers less, and we'll worry about next year. We're next year now. And we're hoping to now flatline because we don't have the funding sources, we do not have the undesignated to help us now in the next couple of years.
I guess what my recommendation here is, because I know you're at the drop dead, you fell off the cliff because of all the ARPA funding for the computers this year. So you could not phase those, you're gonna have to replace them all. But now, don't wait till you're falling off the cliff, back up, and so next year replace something or add something that wouldn't necessarily be, so that you get to a point that you're replacing a percentage of them every year, and then you are at a flat line.
IT does have a plan, a rotation plan. It's just unfortunate that the office licenses can't be on a rotation, and we're not gonna be supported any longer if we don't implement this year. So that's the hit every department is taking right now. But the computers, you will see that there's rotations going through departments. And some departments don't have any replacements that might have a department of 3, but they may have one next year and then for the next 2 years.
And in regards to the communications budget, the reason that it did what it did is because, as you can imagine, we can't have computer failures. And we had computers in there that were 5+ years old. They're on 24/7. And when those computers go down, we have a very big problem. And so we had computers failing at the beginning of this year, and we had no choice, even in the budget situation that we were in, to replace those computers. And so our IT department did wonderful things, and they were able to actually get us new computers, so that our computers would quit turning off in the middle of responding to a gun call. And all of a sudden, your cat's gone because your computer was, because that's what we were facing. So that's why the communications have got that line of supply. We had no choice. I can tell you too, that the ARPA funds that we got, Bob completely restructured the communications, the radio communications. He used $600,000 of ARPA money, didn't come out of anybody's pocket, to make it so that Owl's Head Fire Department can talk to us, to make it so that Washington Fire Department can talk to us, to make sure that Washington and Owl's Head can talk to each other. But that was another issue that we had, and so thank God that Bob figured out a way to fix the radio communication issue that we had. The sheriff's department couldn't talk to us because they were in an area that had a dead spot in the radio, but through the ARPA funds, he was able to basically rebuild all of the radio communications. So that's a huge savings for everybody, obviously.
That was the other part of my question on the computers is what's driving the number, and some years for communications, it's because the state has mandated a new software, a new protocol, a new piece of equipment. And I'm just curious if that cropped up in this year.
So the only thing that's in here this year is, as far as licenses, are the licenses that we have to carry. Like, you can speak more to the licenses specifically.
Which licenses are you looking at?
Office license.
Office licenses? There's really not any. One of the fees that you see in there is for IAR, the I am responding. That's a charge that we give the municipalities. That's a $12,000 a year charge that the municipalities aren't having to somewhat paid for, out of their municipal budgets. The county handles it, so, but that's a yearly charge. There's a yearly charge for the Equiture recorder. That's a recorder that records every phone line, every radio transmission that's done, so that we have to be sending them over to the DA's office on an everyday basis, so that has to be up to the best standard. We actually just replaced that system. I believe it was last year we replaced it, but that's a yearly charge we have to pay for. The tower lease that we have, one of our tower leases, right on their bill, says on January 1st, there'll be a 5% increase. So as of today, on January 1st, one of our tower leases will increase by 5%. So that one, you know, already in advance, that tower lease is gonna be an extra 5% next year. And then there's a couple other things that they have, but everything's, the computers are a 5-year exchange.
I think, was your question on supplies and equipment? Computer supplies and equipment, that's good. Okay, I think you were answering somewhat
Yeah.
for computer repairs and maintenance, which are,
He had licenses and everything.
Yeah.
but I think you were,
It was part of my question is what's driving the cost of the computers in this budget? Maintenance
I
and
think you were asking the supplies and equipment, which because that shows such a high increase.
and that's what prompted.
Yeah, that's because we bought 4 brand spanking new computers.
But in here, you're only having to budget for a laptop and a desktop because we utilized all of the reserve money to fund the other needs that were needed in that department. So those 2 items plus the 11 office licenses that we have to replace across every business providing that.
Come next year, that will drop some, because you're not gonna see the four, well, we end up in that 3 computers in there, the 4.
Put 4 in dispatch and laptop.
Yeah, but there was some funding that,
Oh, right.
some other things, but in other words, the laptop won't be there and those computers won't be there next year, so that will drop back down to a normal, in the 27 budget, you won't see all brand new computers. We're on a 5-year rotation for our IT department.
Any other questions, concerns? I know we have concerns. We're always gonna have those.
We don't come back to communications, this is it.
We can, if there's more information needed.
Okay,
One of the last nights we can call the departments back.
okay.
Explanations.
And what we do is we tentatively approve their budget. If there's something specific you want to relook at, you need to make sure you tell the department head in enough time so that they can gather that data and be at that meeting.
I don't see any other questions or comments. Can I have a motion on the amount of $2,145,443?
I'll give a motion.
That motion, you have a second? A second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? And do you have Peter on the phone today?
He is, yeah, we're doing something. I'm gonna actually check with you afterwards to see if the vote would actually, I know he's tuning in.
Yeah, if he stated his name and for or against.
Got him, 7-0.
We can have in the minutes an action item to look whether we can sell our service to other counties.
If realistically, we're probably not gonna be able to crank out an action plan like that in this budget.
No.
We can definitely attempt to have it ready for the 2027 budget process.
That's good enough,
Okay,
but I'd like to have a date with it.
And that will allow us to have some potentially realistic data, that in the catastrophic mode, like the last 2 years, it's sort of a more stability mode, if that makes sense.
The commission,
I have a motion to accept this.
Make a motion that we accept the $2,145,443 fee for communications.
Right, and we will second it in discussion.
hold it.
Did she say yes?
Yes, state her name and say yes or no.
Maureen? Are you following along? Wait up.
She was there, but she was.
You can check some of your vote.
Some of the discussion,
Oh, sorry, I accidentally signed off, but I'm in.
this is not in favor, this was just, at this point, that was just a motion to accept it. I wanted to start the discussion, if you have any questions on the budget.
I think we've had some really important items. So thank you to the committee.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. One's an observation. When we started this whole process of having a failing communications department, we met with the state a number of times. We were in the forefront of collapsing around the state, but there were a number of other dispatch centers that were just borderline following us. We had, I think, down to 5 or 6 at the most people working in the communications center. And it wasn't very pretty because everybody was working overtime, and we had one person quit, which meant we didn't have enough even with overtime to operate, so we started contracting out with Waldo County. And the problem with that, of course, was that cost money. We have no way of, and that goes back to why we don't have good numbers now, is because what we were doing then and paying out has nothing to do with how to run a real center. But when we met with the state and we talked about all this, there was some discussion that the state realized that what was going on in all of the counties wasn't working. And that they were gonna start looking at a new plan for the whole state in terms of how counties dispatch or how towns dispatch. And I didn't know if you had any word on how that was coming.
So actually, tomorrow, all of the directors in the state are supposed to meet the Augusta State House because the commissioners are apparently talking about consolidating centers, and I think it's because the state is wanting to consolidate centers like DPS Augusta, I think more. The issue is that with the counties, as far as the county directors stand, it's not good for the state to take over the counties because they don't have the vested interest in the counties like the counties do. I don't, and I can't speak to what the state has done. I just know that in preparing to go to Augusta tomorrow, the numbers are crazy because DPS statewide, they have 59 certified emergency medical dispatchers. In the state, the counties have 259. I don't think they realize exactly what the volume is of services that the counties themselves provide to their own local municipalities, their own communities. And so I think I'm not really sure because I'm very new to that discussion as well now. But it just seems crazy to me that the state would want to take over and consolidate a whole bunch of counties into one because I'm not sure. I know there's been a lot of rocky bumpies in the DPS centers that are here now over just since I've been here. So I'm not sure that that's the safest bet for anybody.
I think to some extent what I'm trying to address is John's point
Oh.
about what our strategic plan is. We can come up with a plan, but we're working around something that the state is talking about doing at the same time. So what our plan is may change depending on what the state allows us to do in next year. And I think we all agree that we need some kind of consolidation on a statewide basis because the counties can't do what they're doing anymore the way they are. John?
I honestly feel that Monmouth County could probably do a better job over there in the state.
Well, no, what we've done is, and I will say this is a testament to those two on the end of that table as well as Mark over here, is we have resurrected and rebuilt, it's like a phoenix. We should just call ourselves the Phoenix Communications Center, because what they've, a new logo. Because what they've done is make it into one of the best in the state.
And we can be the model for the state, so that we should be able to
Right.
be other counties and.
We don't know how to resurrect it and turn it into something new. But the question is, what can we do with that? Will Waldo County, and those are discussions we're gonna have. And that's something that we as a commission will work on with you, because we do think it's important. How many of those, when we were at the bottom, how many of those dispatchers are still with the county?
The ones that were here when I started?
One,
Yeah, he's it.
That's it.
That's
The
it.
point is also that we're dealing with all new people at the communications center too. And they're all very good, not that the people we had before weren't, but it has been such a total rebuild from the ground up. It's sort of like getting rid of Tom Brady and starting all over again.
Right.
Is we are in the process of rebuilding it, and we sort of reached this point, and we don't know exactly where it's gonna keep going. I mean, to your point, over what really we spent last year, which between ARPA funding and reserves accounts, really only 5% more than last year. And that's with all of the increases to insurance and wages, contractual agreements, and and the cost of electricity. So that's not really a big increase over what we really spent, but we hid what we spent last year. Not that we hid it, it's just that to make ends meet, we had to drag money from all kinds of other places other than just the budget. So I'm not uncomfortable with this number, except that it is a really big increase over last year's budget.
I'd like to make a suggestion, since you're meeting with the state, anytime the state gets involved, it becomes very expensive. Right, taking over the service, why don't you ask them to do a little bit of funding for our dispatch?
That could be wonderful. I would love to do that.
And so just ask them, say, would you be willing to provide us $1 million a year? And that will build all counties.
I don't disagree, and I honestly think that's part of the discussion that we're having tomorrow. Again, I'm not only new to Maine, but I'm new to this as a director, and so I've been doing this job for over 20 years. But Maine does things a little differently, and so I'm kind of still sort of feeling out how it all works. So tomorrow's my first time ever going to the State House and getting involved in this kind of thing, so I don't disagree. I would love to say, hey, if you would like us to do this, absolutely, but we need some help, and I agree.
I mean, I just come right out and ask.
Yeah. I agree.
I hate to be the one to throw the damper on this, but I've been writing the consolidation and regionalization only for 20 years in this county. And every time I've attempted it, I've been shot down by the towns. So if you want to consolidate, if you want to bring it in together, the towns have got to get behind it. Because right now, they don't want to consolidate or regionalize fire, EMS, even dog, animal control. They can't, we are so stovepiped in this county, in this state, and there's a lot of good reasons for it, but it's very difficult to convince the towns, and I'll give you a perfect example with communications. 2001, when communications was in each of the towns, and they decided to consolidate them into 26 regional communication centers, the towns fought it. They didn't want it to happen, they argued with it, and they fought it, and they lost. At the same time, the state wanted to go from 26 to 7, and the counties and the towns fought it. So consolidation in this county is a bad word, and regionalization is a bad word. And so if you want this to happen, you can't ask her to do it. I don't even think you can ask them to do it. It's gotta be the towns, it's gotta come from the towns. Because anybody in this room that does it is not gonna be supported unless the towns are the ones driving it.
Jeff, the movement is starting, believe me. We are having the conversations, and we've even gone to Augusta in one instant to get them to help us out on one issue. And if I get that issue, then it's gonna make this county and every town that has a police department better off than that. So we're having these conversations, it will take time, but I'm not one who will roll and say, dead, allow you to continue on. Change has got to happen, and I think people are gonna wake up to that fact, sooner than later. So I'm moving forward, I appreciate what you said, but I don't believe in that negativity.
It seems to me when I read the newspaper that all the counties have budget problems.
Oh, yeah.
And when you run out of money, you become creative and your point of pain shifts. Maybe you give up some freedom and save some money, I don't know.
And the taxpayers are paying $4,000 this year, and 6 years later, they're paying $8,000. Now, I'm gonna tell you something, they're gonna start voicing their concern. So I think the economy is right.
I just want to mention a couple of things. Number one, didn't we used to do the dispatch for Lincolnville?
Fire, yeah, we still do their medical.
So- So they took that away, but hopefully that's the start of getting it back, because better service than Waldo now. And in addition, in terms of consolidation, that's one of the things that I ran for in trying to coordinate fire EMS as well. And Bob over there in the corner is now the Knox County Public Safety Coordinator, working with fire to try and get them to work closer together. We're starting the process quietly and see if we can get them to work better together and see where we can go. So that's a prime thing that we're working to do.
And I think we're all kind of saying the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just the building blocks to get there, is we're at the starting of that right now.
Any other discussion? Seeing as none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor of the budget as presented for the communications?
Morgan?
Morgan, are you there?
Sorry.
I call the motion for accepting the budget as presented for communications. Three in favor, none opposed. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Yes, the education and everything,
Absolutely, and again, my.
don't feel beat up.
My stuff as being very, I mean, I do personal, I take it very personal, I'm definitely invested, you're all, any of you are welcome, anytime. The door's always open, I urge anybody to look at it, and see the good that we do.
We can go about an hour and a half. Let's just take a real quick break. Do you guys want to move that table down a little ways?
No, it sounds good, then.
Blank off the. Stuff.
And no, they would stay, but. Sorry. I'm fighting off a cold, so.
Like I said, let's get abstracted.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Listen to the rest of the meeting. This one, Rob, is A1.
Well, deceiving because this is very difficult. So whatever the number is, it's synthetic, so it's us. We're really into everything to take the thing that we lives. But in my life, it was.
Saying. That would be. This year, it made it make here, it sounds like it's gone, so we're. be more efficient, because it shouldn't be such any communications sort of becoming,
But it's not the same.
right, just like, you know, continue.
Actually, the administrative work there. Based on the
How many approaches were there, so we're trying to get hold of that data at the end. Yes. Yes. We trying to figure out a way, website was made, but just an easy way to just have site. You don't have to. We have to take. Pretty much here. Trying, but for you, that's it. Well, that's important. So I'm always here because that's true. It's not this. Yeah.
Basically the bill. Every year. Well, it's sold. And that's.
I was really thinking, but if they found out, it was like.
Yeah. He's doing very well. Yeah.
Okay, we get going. There you go. Go ahead. Yes. Okay, we'll get going again. This is, the airport. Jacob Johnson, airport manager. There's yours.
So one thing that you're gonna see different in this copy of the budget than what we saw the last time we did this is a significant increase to the airport revenues. So when the last budget was submitted, we hadn't yet received some of the payments for 2025, and like Downs Air and Cape Air and some of our larger revenue sources. Now that we actually have a better idea of what the 2025 actuals are, we're able to update the revenue to kind of reflect that. So that is gonna be the change. Start from the top, I'll just kind of go down the list and talk about some of the key items, and feel free to stop me if you guys have any. So the main thing that we're asking for, a bigger change, is I'm asking for $12,000 in maintenance per diem. So a part of that is snow removal. Snow removal in the winter is always rough. We have a great team, they do an excellent job at the runways maintained. We're constantly getting praise from the FAA and pilots about how quickly we get the airfield open and running again, but that takes time, it takes a lot of manpower. Some of it is not easy labor. We've been using per diem work to kind of help come in and take off some of the workload and some of the work stress off of our, maintenance employees. Also want to point out that having per diem employees come in, that work has to be done either way. So whether we're paying somebody overtime to do it on the weekends, or paying somebody straight time as per diem to come in and do it, either way, it has to be done. The other use for per diem is for maintaining our solar field. So the DEP requires that we maintain the solar field to the same, what the exact term, basically to the same level as it was before we put solar panels there, which was a grass field. So it has to be a grass field with solar panels on it. Well, trying to mow around solar panels and getting into all the nooks and crevices isn't easy. It's not like you can take a mower and just go straight line. You have to actually try to get in under the panels. And that takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time for a person to go weed an acre of solar panels. We had the maintenance manager come to me and told me that it takes roughly a day, a week to get it cut at the rate the grass grows. So 2 days every 2 weeks, 16 hours a pay period. Over time that adds up. And it's just not pleasant work to be doing. I mean, it's very stressful. It's hard on your body to kind of get in there and crouch down and something like that. So having that per diem person come in every so often to kind of ease some of the workload. Something we started doing in 2025, it's been really good for morale. And I think it's kind of gonna help us keep overtime down in 2026. Overtime, we're asking for $8,000. I think in 2025, we spent more than that, but it's dependent on the weather. I mean, it just so happens that the bulk of the snowstorms that we've had have all been on weekends or holidays. I don't know what it is about Saturdays in Maine that it likes to snow. But that's just the nature of it. I do plan on using per diem employees for call-ins late at night as opposed to having, paying a maintenance person overtime to come in, fix a small maintenance issue that has to be done at that time. We can use somebody per diem and for that. I've also gone in myself to kind of handle some of the small issues, being salary, just kind of chipping away at the overtime best we can, but I'm hesitant to cut too much just because it's depending upon weather. Postage and shipping going down a little bit. You'll see that's a bit of an increase. We use postage and shipping to bill for parking as the bulk of this. So every time we have a parking invoice, we, it's old school, we print it out, we have to mail it to the person. We don't have their phone number, their email address, or anything like that. We only have the address that the vehicle's registered to. So that's how we have to handle it.
But before you go to these, can we talk about the total personnel? I mean, that's a reasonable. All in all, you are planning an increase of 14% given the actual spending in 25 to 26. And that is, why do we have this steep increase? There's nothing new coming, right? So it should be closer to inflation.
Yeah. So a lot of it is the maintenance per diem pay.
But that's 12,000.
Yeah.
But we're going up 60,000.
With the benefits package, if there's anything in the benefits package, I mean, I know some of those are cost drivers, that you'd have to ask. But I mean, is there a specific line that you'd like to go into?
Well, I'm looking at line total personnel.
Mhm.
Yeah, the actual draft is 415,500 and it's going up to proposal 2026, 474,200. That's a 14.1% increase. I'm
Is
using the folder
2025
numbers.
budget complete yet?
The only change, just speaking in a general sense there, health insurance went up 21%, again, because of change from one personnel to another. We also brought, I believe in 25, 26, our maintenance person changed, came in with a higher level of experience, so came in at a higher base pay. The per diem is definitely contributing to that also.
You can also take into consideration that in that period where we changed maintenance personnel, we had one person leave and one person come on. There was a long time where there was no full-time person operating in that role. We were using per diem employees to kind of fill that gap. Per diem employees, they don't have benefits or anything like that. So in 2025, we did save money for employee benefits compared to what we originally budgeted.
But from 2024 to 2025, the budget or the spending went up by 11.2%. From 373,500 to 415,500. So, if there's something new that we do, a new service, or there's a new law, if there's an external force, we have to accept that. But I'm getting worried when the continuing operation, when they run above inflation, this is way above. Yeah. So this is why I try to understand and how we can break that trend. It might have been a catching up as we've seen in communications of some things in the past, but moving forward, I'd like to see the way how we get into a stable cruising altitude, unless there's an external force that drives us to change things.
I can tell you from 2023 to 2024, 2023 to 2024, so I got here in August of 2024. So I know that there was a lot of back and forth with, the actual airport manager at that time. The airport manager stepped down, we had an airport manager step up as an interim, and then I came along. So I'm sure that the numbers kind of fluctuated between 2024, for what was budgeted and what was actual. It was August of 2024 when I got in. I know that personnel changes, really have been myself and maintenance personnel, and now the implementation of more per diem work. But anything related to the subtotal benefits, I guess that'd be more of a finance question.
The other thing too, when we talk about personnel costs going up by inflation, the way the personnel costs rise here, it's inflation plus 2%, unless that's changed, but that's.
Yeah, so our stats for our non-union employees, it is still 2%. For our union employees, that does fluctuate. It's not always up to the 2%. Sometimes it's a lot lower, so it's.
Plus the inflation.
plus the cost of living.
So personnel's always, for this county, is always gonna be greater than inflation.
Well, that is personnel politics, but I would, I would say, that's the logic I know with unions. The more work experience you have, the more money you get because you work more efficiently. And so I would actually expect a stable team that the costs go down because they work more efficiently, and you pass on that benefit, inflation plus, when they do that. That
It
the
won't show
costs
up
run
in the
away.
personnel costs. It
Yeah.
won't show up in the personnel costs. Where that efficiency will show up is in revenue and in decreases of the cost of doing
Agreed,
operations.
yeah.
So that if you're looking just at the personnel part of it,
You're right.
that won't follow.
Yeah, but you'd have to look at the entire budget, and if the entire budget is below inflation, then you would say, okay, let's increase the wages because they've earned it, they brought the costs down. But if the costs run and then the wages are above inflation, that's an unstable system.
Total expenditures are up 3%.
Well, 4.6%, well, but they came down from 24 to 25, they came down by 3.6%. It's probably the effect that you mentioned. And now it's going up 4.6%. That can compensate some of the savings that were done before, because it's, yeah. Okay, so that's kind of, I have a warning light on that. Some costs may be running away and we might have to break a pattern. I don't know yet where it is.
I do have a question on the TAN. Probably know what it is. You already run this by FAA, and it's an authorized diversion of airport funds. We had this discussion a couple of years ago on an item, and they shot us down on that one. So the question is, have we run this one by?
I have to go back to my notes. I'd have to go back to my notes and look at that.
Yeah. That's my only comment on this, is that I hate to have I hate the FAA to come in and say, no, that's a diversion of funds and make you repay it like you did last time.
Anyone else?
So your Western Star had a deaf issue.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy to keep going down the list, but yeah, if you want to go down to the auto repairs and maintenance, yeah, it's started that issue. Yeah, every couple of years, the DEF has to be regenerated. It's the diesel exhaust filter.
Diesel exhaust fluid.
Yeah, the filter in that. I mean, that's kind of the big. It's so early on in the year. It being so early on in the year, that's why I increased that. Surely something else is going to come in the year. A lot of this is good just in case we needed this.
They just changed it. Now you're allowed to delete.
That's what this was. It was a removal of this.
Yeah, no, I wanted to play the event. I was just, no, you got a bargain. We got a bargain.
Yeah, it was $5,000 to remove the system. We were originally going to ask for $7,500 to have just in case we need it. But with it being so early in the year, I took half of that $5,000 and that added to the budget just in case something else happened.
If there's no other money available, as well, I understand it.
Thank you.
One thing I'd like to note about the telephones and pagers, the reason that there's a big jump in that is consolidated communications. When we had the solar panels installed, it was on deadline. This project had to be done. If it wasn't done, it was going to be a $1.2 million cost burden. We did get the project done in 2024. We got it done on time, but the only service that we could use to run a telephone line to the solar panels was Consolidated Communications in a POTS line, or was it plain old service? It's a copper line. Those are kind of outdated. They're kind of getting phased out, but it was the only service that we could have used for the panels at that time. And with there being such a time crunch to get that project done, it's the option. But there were costs that were associated with that, but they were far outweighed by the revenue that we're getting from the solar panels.
The de-icer,
Yes.
are you using more of it, or did it go up?
So we have not had the ICER for the last few years. So this is more so that it's better to have and not need than need and not have. I mean, it's a safety issue. We have a duty to maintain the airfield to the best ability, to the best of our abilities. It is technically emergency infrastructure. The airport has to be open all the time. So there was an instance in 2024 where we did have to close the airfield. We had to close it down entirely and iced over, and we had no de-icer to use. The maintenance team couldn't chip away at the ice, the sun wasn't melting. We had to actually shut the airport down for a few days, which is not what we want. We need it to be open all the time, if not for passenger revenues, then for emergency services to be able to fly now. Having this de-icer would prevent that from happening or make it significantly less likely. We haven't had it in the past couple of years because it's so expensive. And
I take it it's not rock salt.
no. Yeah, this will get us about 4 uses of that. But it's not something that we're gonna be using.
It's not
freely. It's gonna be used only if needed, which hopefully we won't need it, but if we do, then.
Must have a long tail.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the electricity.
Yeah, so as far as the electrical expense, there are some of our accounts are not set up to receive the solar allocation. I'm working with CNP on that now. It's the whole process is a bit of a pain, but all of our credits are getting used right now. So we're either going to use them to offset electrical expenses or we're going to use them for revenue. And we're only going to get a certain amount of credits. The reason that we're going with a $10,000, line for projected expense, there are only a small amount of accounts that aren't on there, but because we don't have a full 12 months of data for solar panels, I'm just hesitant to say that it's going to be significantly lower than that. We ran into, I think there were 2 months where the panels didn't have enough power in the, January, February, like peak of winter, that it didn't have enough power to cover 100% of the airport's electrical expenses. So there's some expenses there, but now that we're in March, for the rest of the year, we'll likely not have any more expenses.
And without the solar panels, it was 60,000, and now you're estimating 10,000.
And yeah, the high projection is 10,000.
I'll just interject that since Jacob has come on board, he has found cost savings after cost savings at the airport. He has done numerous studies to try and make sure that we're charging appropriately for an airport our size. He has done a lot of diligence to try and find efficiencies, again, cost savings and just more revenue streams. So a lot of diligence went into this budget.
Would you all like me to go into revenues, or is there any more of the expenses that you'd like to discuss?
Yeah, revenue is the interesting part, right?
Yeah, that's the fun part. So some of our lease agreements were adjusted or negotiated with our partners. Some of the rates, I felt like we could have, higher in favor to the airport. So we'll see a little bit more revenue in that. Some of those we've already started seeing come in, like with the operations facility. Their monthly rent got increased and the expense for utilities got pushed on the tenant as opposed to the airport itself. I feel like those things are just things that make sense. So we got a little bit more revenue from there. Some of our, bigger revenue sources like budget and Down East Air. I mean, just take Down East Air, for example, in 2025, they did $84,000 a year in revenue towards the airport. But if you go off of the average of the last few years, that only comes down to 75,000. It's entirely likely that they just had a really good year. Some of that surely is growth and people coming in, but when projecting revenues, I felt it best to go off an average as opposed to one good year. Another big change in revenue will be the vehicle parking. We've changed the rates to vehicle parking from $6 a night to $7 a night. We're still some of the lowest in the area, but just that $1 change with how many cars we have actually coming in and out. It's a pretty significant revenue boost for us.
That seems kind of low.
I'm sorry,
That seems kind of low.
the $7 fare?
Yeah.
Yes, sir, but it's when you're gone for days at a time. It's only overnight parking. So these people are gone for multiple days at a time. And we do try to be low enough to where even if you're not using the airport, you would still come in and park, for overnight. Yeah, but it's been everybody's been happy with the $7.
I can see why.
Yeah.
The landing fee is, it went down a lot. The 30,000 was even the 24 budget. That's not an average value, it said.
So the landing fee program is a system that we're in the final stages of having a new system in place now. I'm hoping to have it up by June 1st. This is actually, I felt that 60,000 was a good safe projection for revenue. It's the projections that I received for the service showed that the revenue could even be, roughly 20,000 more than that. But we're moving towards an automated system that monitors the ADS-B system, or it monitors the satellite tracking for aircraft, essentially the GPS tracking for it. It monitors that, so we have a definitive count of every single person that's coming into this airport, as opposed to how it was done in the past and how it's currently being done today. It's more so whoever uses the FBO service or whoever the FBO happens to see, and that's how the billing is done. They go and they say, okay, this person landed here, write down the tail number, and we'll send them an invoice later. But the FBO is only open so many hours a day. And if nobody's using FBO services and they happen to park on the other side of the airfield, it's really hard to determine who is and is not actually coming in and landing at this airport. This new system solves that. It solves that. 100% of the people that are coming in are going to be, we're going to see who's coming in, and they're going to get, an invoice that's sent out to them on that. And moving into this system, we're also increasing the rates for our landing fees to be a weight-based structure as opposed to an engine-style structure. So as opposed to saying, okay, you're a jet, you get charged this much, and you're a small plane, you get charged this much. It's now going to be on a weight-based scale. So if you're a 30,000 pound aircraft, you're going to pay more money per 1,000 pounds than if you were, say, a 6,000 pound aircraft. Yeah, so it's just a more fair way to bill the users compared to how impactful they are to me.
So how much are we planning?
So we're projecting 60,000 here.
Oh, I have 30,000 in my sheet.
That's
That's outdated.
Yeah, the new one's on you.
Yeah, you should have a new one. I was wondering if that's what you were looking at when you were saying the 14% increase. Yeah,
Okay.
there's a new updated, budget.
Okay.
Yes. No, it should be in under your other packet.
The stack.
Yeah.
The second one, which is yellow.
Okay, I'll figure it out. What for? Let's give it $60,000. Yeah, I read you loud and clear. Okay, then the total number look better. Okay, good. Thank you.
And the last thing we're gonna change is with the solar panels. The solar panels went operational in June of last year, so we only have, the June to December. We're projecting about 47,500. I think that's a fair, reasonable estimate based on how they performed in 2025, but again, that was without January, February, March, April, and May going into this. It could be maybe slightly higher, but I think 47.5 is.
So those solar panels are bringing in 80,000, between 90,000. Between this and the savings and the.
And very good about that.
Air.
Any other questions? We need a motion for. Do I want to pull revenue or after?
So, after the.
After the
Okay.
total revenue.
So 83,527. Second.
Thank you. With these two numbers on the second.
Any other discussion? Who's in favor? And say something, please.
Great, commission. The motion to accept the budget as presented.
I make a motion that we accept the budget of $83,507.
No second is any discussion?
Well, yes, thank you, Jake.
And my discussion is, it looks like what we're talking about is, at the end of this budget, between the revenues and the expenses, is a slight decrease in the cost to the county of having an airport. Right. So it looks like it's 30% or something. Which is good, that's what we like to see. Yeah. On the other hand, as we've talked about before, anything we can do to keep getting that revenue up there. Because we know that the costs are gonna keep going up, the revenue has to match, continue to match. Thank
Doing
you.
a whole rates and fees analysis, I had a couple more irons in the fire, but
Yeah, thank you, really appreciate that. So every little bit helps. Yeah. Is Morgan still there? Good.
Great budget, and I love the revenue as well, and maybe we should move parking up to $8 a night next year. So. But otherwise, thank you, Jacob. This looks great. I appreciate it.
All in favor of the budget as presented?
Aye.
Morgan says yes, so there's 3 in favor. Thank you, Jacob.
Did confirmation from Peterson.
Okay. Okay, next item is district attorney.
Hi, everyone. I'd like to have a budget committee. Finally know what it's like not to have a budget committee. I won't make any comments about, but you know what? I'm very excited. This has been really difficult on the staff, not having a budget for 2026. It's been really nerve wracking. People haven't gotten their COLAs, they haven't gotten their raises, so I'm really looking forward to folks getting what they've earned and having an operational budget. So my budget is, I believe it's gone down slightly, total net budget's gone down 11%. There's a, one of the big, I would say probably the biggest contributor to that is the fact that Shane Riley, our prosecutorial assistant, is he is moving over to the sheriff's budget line. And we have Chief Deputy Andrick here who could, if you had questions about that, I would like to call him up
together, this is a decision that we made together with the sheriff, about where his position should be housed based on training, based on, equipment, based on that type of thing. Now, he's still assigned to my office, so he's still, he still works under me, but he is, paid by the sheriff's department. I still speak with him almost every day, and I'm sure I'll probably speak with him. He'll probably text me and ask me how the budget went, today. So, he's a very valuable part of our staff, as is every person, that the county pays, to be on our staff here. Another change in our budget is, that Stephanie Late, one of our victim advocates, who I believe is 37 year, 30, is it, 38?
Started in 89, so.
Yeah, so then that would be 37 years, if I'm correct, so depending on when she started, so, 37-year veteran victim advocate, I wish you welcome to retirement, I will miss, you should be irreplaceable. She does an amazing job. I was told once by a great defense attorney, one of the great defense attorneys that has ever been in this area, that she was born a victim advocate. We will miss her. So that has added I've never seen this number before, but a 1,527% increase in retirement, in that line. What else do we have? Drug analysis, looks like we are requesting more, funds for that. We do pay for drug analysis. We budgeted $1,000 last year, and as you can see, we spent $1,770. That's not just us, that's also the Attorney General's office. They prosecute drug trafficking.
So it's not people in your office that are.
No, I can't tell you. Oh, no, my people in my office, they have drugs, I hope they don't. Just kidding, nobody in my office. The drug analysis is, one of the elements one has to prove in a possession case, or in a trafficking case, is substance that we are purporting is a controlled substance is in fact, and so we need a chemical analysis of that. We need to call in a chemist. There's actually been new Supreme Court laws on that are going to make prices go up for trials. I'm not going to think too much about that. Again, that's a lot of those drug analysis costs are from the Attorney General's office. We do pay for drug analysis. Now, just to kind of give to try to explain why we would pay Attorney General office drug analysis fees. The Attorney General's office does drug trafficking prosecution kind of as a service to our districts. They aren't in every district doing drug trafficking. They're in most of the districts. They specialize in it. They work with the main DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency, and so they're the prosecutors that we have, that the Attorney General's office has. He actually has a desk in our office, and they do it kind of as a service to us. It is something that we have jurisdiction over. So this is an agreement that we've had with the Attorney General's office. I'm very happy with it, and I think we get our money's worth to pay for that drug analysis. So that's why we pay for that. I guess our transfer fees have gone down. That has a lot to do. That's just appeals typically, not always, but that may be that we've had less appeals lately. Slight decrease in lodging and airfare, slight increase in phones. I think it's just, but I think that's just because is that just the reimbursement rate going up or something?
Telephone and futures. Oh, off the top of my head, let me see, I'm sure, was it a reimbursement?
It could be that our phone bill's gone up. I didn't look. I looked into that one, but it does look like it's going up slightly. It's going up. So, internet web hosting is down slightly. Our insurance, now this is the insurance that's going up. That's a risk pool. We don't have control over that. That's that kind of by other forces, including in the state generally, if there have been this suits against, prosecutors, right, or, other type procedural misconduct. And those rates tend to not, they don't go up immediately. It can be 10 years between a potential event and then the bump up. So, but those have gone up slightly. It's not a big cost. It's essential that we use the memberships, so we're down slightly. Postage and shipping, down quite a bit. The reason for that is that we use ShareFile. It's an electronic platform where the law enforcement offices, they load their evidence, basically the documentary evidence, body cam, dash cam, video, etc. And then everything else we get, like a drug analysis, when we get that back, that gets uploaded. And then that's shared through a link with defense counsel. So we're not shipping out, we're not mailing out new discovery is what evidence is called. When it's in our office, what we call discovery. So that's gone down. I assume that's gonna probably keep going down. We're asking for slightly more witness fees. That is due to, every time we have a trial, we have to pay, let's say we have a victim who lives in Bangor. Well, Bangor's a little closer, but I guess my district is from Saginaw to Waldo County. So let's say we have a victim that lives in Fulton. Now they would come and let's say it's a 3-day trial, they may come and spend 2 or 3 nights depending. Maybe they just wanna come to, they'll testify and they only wanna come for the one night. Maybe they wanna see the whole trial. If they're the victim, we put them up for that, but we pay those fees. Those don't tend to be terribly much. We pay for reimbursement of mileage. I don't think it's happened in Knox County recently, but it was in history, but in Lincoln County, we had a victim who moved to West Virginia, so we paid for airfare to come. So those are the kinds of regular expenses. Now, on top of that, we've been focusing on prosecution of, as a state really, but our district particularly too, we've been focusing on building evidence, we call it evidence-based prosecution, strangulation, non-fatal strangulation cases. And in order to prove those cases, we typically are going to want to have an expert witness. We have an expert that we typically work with. We also, with sexual abuse cases, sexual assault cases, and domestic violence cases, if we are able to get to trial on them, we want to have, not in every case, but it is often really important and can really make a difference in getting a conviction. And so that's why we're all, that's why we're doing it. Like if we get to trial, if we want to win, right? That's the point. It is to, that's kind of the pinnacle of what we're doing in this trial. And it really is best practice to have an expert witness. We don't have to have it in every case. A lot of cases are going to settle for one reason or another. But when we are having a trial, for instance, we just had a State versus Stephen Ames. We had an expert witness in that case. That was a child sexual abuse case, child under 12. We have, gosh, I can't remember, maybe a 7-count conviction. I think we were successful in each count except for one. And he will be looking at the case and likely in prison after the sentence. So having that expert was probably essential to getting one of the essential elements of getting that. So we are, as a district, we really are looking at and encouraging folks to utilize experts in serious cases, and that's why that number has gone up slightly. Well, not slightly, it's gone up. I will also tell you, just because we are a 4-county district here in District 6, that we have had increases in the other counties. Also, in Saginaw County, they've increased it substantially. It's, every county is a little different, but we are asking for that. Let's see, what else do we have to? Oh, sure, yeah, sorry, I was doing these highlights. Yeah, we can do, yeah.
If the victim's advocate retired, are you gonna be replacing a joint position?
Yes.
When do you expect that one to happen?
Well, we're gonna post it soon. We're hoping to have Stephanie late. I think the goal is, if it works out, would be to hire someone 2 weeks or so before Stephanie retires, so she can help train the new person. She's retiring in June, something? We have a date for
June, yes. However, the new person coming in will be at a much lower rate.
But that's already in this budget for 6 months ago.
For 6,
Okay, thank you.
And so it is a project, right? We don't know what the person's gonna make for salary, but we are quite sure that it will be less than this. I'm trying to see, employee recognition, we have, this county, in our district, in our, office here in Knox County, we have, really an exceptional crew, of folks with the most experience in the district. As far as inside of the district terms. Computer costs are going up, this year, I think they fluctuate, right, from year to year when we have to buy computers, is that just?
yeah, it's on a rotating cycle, and yeah, that's.
Slight increase in our, statutes, I assume that's in the statute books, I assume that's what's going up. Potentially maybe in our, I know I asked, for instance, for, by rules of evidence for, I think they were from like 2019, so I thought maybe I should have a new one, just in case, might be important. We had a visiting prosecutor, state prosecutor come in, and he said, oh, you're a working district attorney, meaning I actually have a caseload. But I do personally have to have those volumes. Basis. Our revenue, we are not a revenue, sorry to disappoint, but we are not a revenue generating department, and we never will be, based on what we do. So we used to make second copies of Discovery as a, people tended to lose it once in a while, as you can imagine. We would make second copies and send it out. We would charge for a second copy. So that doesn't happen. We typically aren't having to print anything, so there aren't second copies. We can't really, the courts aren't gonna let us charge for paper discovery at this point. Let's put that up there. So reimbursement for support, that's for the grant.
So that is actually the
That's
reimbursement.
That's the counties, the 3 counties reimbursement, because your hub is here and for the sport.
For counties. So, thank you, I appreciate that. So, again, 4 county district, I happen to live in Knox County, so I am a taxpayer here in Knox County. My taxes have gone up also. Because this is my home office, the support staff end up having to kind of support my duties a little bit more than the other counties. Yes, I don't have a personal assistant, I don't have, I don't have like a go-to person that's for me, but they do tend to have to support my position as the district attorney. I do a lot more than just prosecute cases. So we get reimbursement for that. My home office is. Deferred dispositions are a statutory construction where a person can plead guilty to a crime up front, and over a course of time, it could be 6 months, it could be 24 months, it could be 36 months. If they, basically a contract between our office, the court, and the defendant, and if they fulfill the terms of the contract, then they would get a good outcome, and that could be anything from no jail, less jail, lower fine, no fine, dismissal of some counts, dismissal of the entire case. It really depends. They're used for different reasons. I think there's a misconception that they're used just to give a defendant a hug to get them out from under a charge. Sometimes they are used to get people into treatment, mental health treatment, drug addiction treatment, alcohol treatment. Sometimes, getting your license back. So there are those types of cases. There's also cases where we're doing whatever we can to get some outcome that would maybe keep bail conditions in place for another year, or get some conviction, and they might be a compromise on where the evidence is compromised and we have a low chance of succeeding at trial. Our burden is beyond a reasonable doubt that is the highest burden in law, and I'll tell you, it is not as easy as it might, I know I make it seem easy, but it is not an easy thing to do. So we can charge a fee statutorily for that. I think anywhere up to $50, but that would be kind of unheard of. So it looks like either we're charging on more of those cases, or maybe people are returning those fees more often. But it fluctuates year to year. We don't make decisions about deferred dispositions or if we would levy a fee or have an agreed to fee, based on anything except a case by case basis. So I'm not sure why that is up. I cannot tell you. I don't think anybody could give you that answer. So the last change is the VOCA grant. We are not seeking that. That was a grant that was approximately $55,000 for the entire district. The staff there are two staff people here in Knox County that were administering that grant. It was an unbelievable amount of work for $55,000, and I honestly think that it may be a wash as far as how much we're paying, how much time our employees are spending to get that amount of money. It really is extremely cumbersome. Other district attorneys' offices have decided to forego that grant. We're probably about one of the last ones that still have it. You keep thinking, you're all, we'll just do it one more, it's a 2-year cycle. We'll just do it one more cycle, and it's just we have too much work. We have too much work to do to sustain it without potentially hiring another staff. So that's where that is, and that is my budget.
Questions, comments, anyone?
One question to compare with the last year's budget. How much is in the sheriff's budget for this one position that is drifted?
So our wages went down 19%. That may have something to do with it.
I think the question you want to know the total amount that position moved over, and I apologize, I thought I had that with me and I don't, but I can get that out.
Just to see how much.
Yeah, absolutely, because that is definitely, there was an increase in the DA when that position was there, so yeah, she needed to take that into account. Unfortunately, I don't have it with me.
Anything else? Okay, do I have a motion for $579,850 of the DA's budget? So moved. Seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Yeah, check, Peter.
And from the commission, I will accept the motion to approve the DA's budget as presented.
Can I make a motion that we accept the DA's budget of $579,850?
And we'll second it. Any discussion? Maureen, any discussion? Just for anybody who doesn't know, you're an elected official. And you're elected for 4 different counties. And this is just one of the 4 different budgets that you present.
That is correct.
Yes.
I'm the luckiest of all the district attorneys. There's 8 district attorneys in the state, and the next closest is 3. So I'm very blessed.
Right. And so what we're voting on is the support basically that we provide.
Oh, and that's a good point. I'm sorry. So all of our attorneys are paid by the state. I'm paid by the state, and our juvenile prosecutor is based in this office, and she's paid by the state, and the 2 line prosecutors that are here, as well as all of the rest of the DA, the ADA, the assistant attorney. So it's a very unusual budget. I mean,
Right.
the entire budget.
We're not paying for the department head in effect.
No. Get me, get state.
We get you for free.
You get me great. No, we paid my mileage. You have to pay my, I appreciate that.
So thank you. Any other discussion? If there's none, I will call the vote. All those in favor?
Yay.
3 in favor, none opposed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening, and I'm heading out. I have 6 kiddos. Yeah. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Okay. You take a break or anything?
I think maybe for the next, because time is of the essence, maybe kind of fix up high levels of the building maintenance instead of going line by line out just in my secret. The capital projects and where are those driving?
Yeah, and we're gonna hold off on those because we don't have our expert. Who is Yes. So it does come up, I'm gonna have to push it to the 23rd. Or, I'm sorry, the 30th, yes, I got it. Our building maintenance budget, I'm just gonna open up with this and then I will let you take it. Jim and his team provide countless hours of work and project management and janitorial and maintenance and furniture movement and moving things across town so that we don't have to buy new furniture, and equipment. He's working on things constantly. We're extremely lucky to have him and his company providing service for the county. I cannot emphasize that enough. He is here almost 12 hours a day, every day, answering all of our needs for all of our facilities and all of our departments. So I will let you present your budgets, right?
It's gonna be the courthouse first.
Yeah, courthouse, just. Yeah, so yeah, to be real quick, you know, and yeah. Highlight main water's up 21%, because we're all, and that's countywide, that's all four of our buildings. We're classified as a public authority. Everything else right there, the, you know, the, ground maintenance, cleaning, and, regular building maintenance or contractual labor. We're halfway through a 3-year contract on those. The only two highlights on building repair and maintenance is we're into a 5-year and a 50-year fire sprinkler testing this year. 5-year goes every 5 years, obviously hydro testing on SPC connections and all that. The 50-year test is when the fire sprinklers become 50 years old. You have to take a sample of each style, send them off to get tested by a factory. If they fail, you replace them. So, and well, that could be a year down, but they're 48 years old now. Some are 40, so we're trying to plan ahead for this. And you can see them up here too. The other thing you don't really notice, I know the business really well, is there's sprinklers above and below the ceiling, all the way in the attics, all the way up, and that's only for the 78 edition and the old courthouse. The state-owned portion is 2005. So they'll do that. So it's a lot of sprinkler heads. Probably, I'm guessing, I don't have any prints, but I bet you there's 500 sprinkler heads in the place. And it's gonna be very labor intensive too, because some are underneath drywall ceilings, some are hard to get crawl spaces above ceilings. So hopefully they pass.
The state takes care of their half.
State takes care of state-owned, yes, yeah. If you have to replace it, how much? Oh, it depends on the market now, if we had to, but yeah, the labor intensive, that could be, I'm gonna guess between $60,000 and $80,000.
Do we approve for that in advance?
Well, it has to be done by a licensed contractor. Is there a budget, or reserve capital budget? Well, we're just starting this year, we're gonna get the tests out here, because if they pass, you don't have to test them for another 10 years, so.
That's harder.
Fingers crossed, yeah. Yeah, so it's a what if, we're trying to look ahead on it to make sure that if we do get it, maybe we can phase it in. If one style, like this is a painted head, it fails, you replace one below the ceiling, but it's upright above the ceiling, that one fails, you replace those, but if those pass, you're good. So there's a lot of what ifs, but that's NFPA 25 mandates that, there's no way around it, that's fire code.
You do have 60,000 in the 27 projected capital
Yeah,
plan,
that's-
assuming that may need to happen.
Yeah.
And that capital plan should be in.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so that's just what we're looking at, and two of the things that out of the normal for building repair and maintenance. Heating repair and maintenance, that's contractual too. So we're really on, even with those in there, we're only 6% on contractual. Commodity bottled water, we're still working on that a little bit. We've saved some money on it, but yeah, that's, it's not a big number, but it's still, we're keeping an eye on it. So that's commodities, so. Then Yeah, we do have, in capital, my first line item on there, IT's not here.
So, yeah, so the maintenance, any project that's gonna affect our facilities or infrastructure does go into the building maintenance capital. The first one that's included there is the building access control system. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend to give you a huge spiel on the IT side of it. But I do know that it is failing and it needs a lot of updates, and our access to our airport, to that area, to our 911 dispatch center, as you heard earlier, extremely critical. And we're not in a good place with all that right now. So we're gonna hear a little bit more about that when IT presents, to learn a little bit more about that capital plan, and we'll kind of put it on that burner, so we're not putting it on Jim to explain that to you.
IT's a different language altogether. The next item on there is the roof, and this is one that is critical this year. We have some,
And I can send this out after if it doesn't pop up.
okay. Yeah. Now that we have a video on it too, what Leticia and I have been working on for 4 years now is a database for inspections for all the buildings. We take it, she's created a program, I just gather the information. But for everything, we do monthly inspections, project tracking and everything. We've been tracking this roof on the old building, 1874, leaked bad last winter, was pretty bad on it. We had some pictures May and June that it's coming through into the attic, ruining the historic courtroom, which is leased by the state, our biggest tenant. It also leaking into Richard and Cranston. The surveyors, our other tenant over there, is leaking in his storage unit. He didn't get his blueprints around, we helped him move them. But that roof needs a repair. That's the 54,000. There's 3 different areas they priced out. We've had 2 quotes already. They're pretty good. The state is gonna do some here too. We're working with the state really good to try to use the same contractor to save some money. You know, the mobilization costs. But that is one we're probably not gonna get by. I heard that painting that ceiling in courtroom 1 was way more than 54,000 12 years ago. So, yeah, we're ruining that ceiling in there. So it's a must fix this year. We've tried for a grant.
We're gonna still try for a grant.
There's grants out there, but yeah, that's one of those things that just, yeah, pretty brutal. We picked up 8 more shingles this winter on the grounds around here coming off. And so, yeah, as far as capital, that's the really important one there. The server, that's IT again. The HVAC leach purchase, that is the county's HVAC system. We pay on that till 2032. Building envelope lease purchase got paid off last year. That was the old repointing of the bridge on the Historic Society. So that's finally paid off. And I would say but
Say it again.
Is it just that, because the budget was 67,000 and you paid 237,000, but it doesn't show anything for the lease purchase.
That's actually wrong, that's for the, both of the
Yeah.
HVAC lease purchase and the building envelope. It just didn't get broken down between the two.
Any other questions?
I'm trying to get the big picture. I mean, we are saving 237,000 compared to last year, just on the building envelope lease purchase, right? But still, we go up 13.4% in the grand total net budget. Well, I see we have these.
67.
Correct, it's only 67,000 for the building envelope. That number of 237 is a combined number of the HVAC lease purchase. I will fix that. Sorry.
Well, I guess the trick here would be, that's the only thing I notice, otherwise the capital, we haven't spent anything for years, and then now all of a sudden we have 3 line items that add up. I'm gonna try if that is possible. I understand the roof you cannot when it rains it. You want to fix that, to spread the others maybe out over.
Yeah, so the issue, and Kathy touched on it earlier, every single year, we've pushed all of this off. So every single year, we try to get ahead of the roof, we try to get ahead of, access control, I believe was on last year, we do try to put these things in. Typically, they either get voted out, and then we have to try and add their year, same with undesignated, so it really comes down to kind of when we get down to this conversation, so we just have to keep adding them back in because we need them. But that's kind of why it's hitting all at once.
And server is a replacement, I suppose, or is it a new server?
Again, I'm gonna let IT answer that
Okay.
specifically. However, my understanding is we just did a massive network migration to be a little bit more user-friendly for our employees and how they utilize all of our equipment and become a bit more streamlined in how all that works, and we are running out of space. So my understanding is we do need another server. It would be in the public safety, courthouse. Thank you. Thank you. Yep. But when we meet on the 30th, I will have our IT director definitely dive into that much further.
Anything else from anyone? See none, so. We're gonna have multi courthouse building maintenance.
But what do we do with these IT line items? Do we take them out here and wait, or are they shown there as well?
So they'll be shown in our capital plan, which we will have time to review. And then we will rediscuss them, yes, when IT presents.
If you are now moving modulo, whatever comes out with these. Yes.
But some chance we don't approve the IT, does that change this?
Yes.
But we're tentatively approving.
This is all just straw vote, just.
This
See
is,
where we're at.
in effect, what you're putting together is the budget that will be presented to the towns. You know, and at the end of this, when you vote on that budget, it'll include all of those little changes, whatever other changes we make. So what we're doing right now is just preparatory for that final vote.
So then let me ask the question, I mean, buildings. You write them off over time. So I wonder, do we build reserves because we know roofs eventually leak, we know servers eventually fail? Or do we get hit all of a sudden like a flash of light?
Well, this kind of goes back to the discussion is every year we get into a budget and it's, what can we take out? Well, like you're saying, well, maybe we take out these 3 capital projects. So we never have the opportunity to build our reserves for the bigger projects, because that's the first thing that gets cut once there's whatever the percentage that's acceptable to the budget committee to move forward. So ultimately, that's what we would love to do for, like when we have a boiler replacement that we're anticipating is going to happen in the future. But we never get to that point because we can't get past like what we're presenting as is.
And then costs get higher, right? Replacing a roof 4 years ago, way less than what it's gonna take to replace, you know, when we actually get this wrapped up. So there's definitely a cost to it by delaying it as well, if that makes sense.
So I'd be interested, independent of this discussion with the vote, I'd eventually like to know your view, what this reserve should be if we would do a solid, reasonable, long-term planning.
Absolutely.
So that at least
Yep.
inside this room, we don't cheat ourselves. Whatever we want to communicate outside for political reasons, that we should look the facts into the eyes.
Can I make an observation, even though it's not about reserves? You put money aside, say we put $25,000, $30,000, because of inflation, the money you put aside is worth less when you finally get to use it. And to your point, if you put it aside for 5 years, it's gone down 25%. So putting money aside that's tax dollars is not necessarily helping the taxpayers.
I agree partly, it depends where you put it.
But yes,
I put it in T-bills. Pardon?
This is where you're not.
Okay.
Very important.
Yeah.
Big word.
dedicated reserve account.
Yes.
If you can buy short-term T-bills, no, that's about the, but I don't know whether this is legally possible, but an enterprise would do that.
Right.
You earn a
Some of that
few
authority.
percentage points.
Say town warrant has many accounts like that, and I don't know the last time we ever borrowed money to do any projects in town.
Even if the value were to go down, at least it's somewhat of a cushion to help offset it. I mean, I'm a reserve, capital reserve person. But it's gonna come down to how much.
And it allows you to. Would you agree that we at least look at the number where we think it should be? That's not a decision to do it, but just to know what it should be.
I think you can, at a later meeting, we can look at the 5-year capital plan. You can see what we're projecting over the next 5 years, and there can be a discussion of whichever projects are chosen or feel that there should be a percentage or a dollar value that goes into a reserve. We're all in favor of that. It's just that pushback comes about the percentage is too high already without going back to Ed, that we're taxing the taxpayers for something today that we're not using today.
Right, that's kind of what this program is here that we got going too, where the ground level of that is, that's how we cut the fire sprinkler stuff. We're looking at the age of stuff in the building, so we're 2 years ahead of that. That's how we cut the roof, even though it caught us off guard a little bit, the weather really killed us. You know, we have other things that we caught last year, like changing all the LED bulbs. We're probably 75% changed on the state and the county side up there, because we looked ahead, whereas the bulbs are, you can't tell them after January 1, 2026. You know, so that's a part of this is looking at life expectancy of every mechanical and building parts. So that it helped to get some costs going and identified, but yeah, the 5-year and the 50-year fire sprinkler, yeah, we knew that was coming. We're planning ahead. Yeah, the roof kind of got us a little bit.
Oh, Bill, made a motion.
I'll move $542,260 tentatively. Building.
Second.
Yes.
Moved, seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
And on the commission side, I'll accept the motion to approve the courthouse building maintenance budget as presented.
I'll make the motion that we accept the $542,260.
And I'll second it. Any discussions?
No.
This is Morgan. I appreciate this conversation, and I think that we're in a really unique opportunity with having this budget process happening so close to the next budget process. And so I think this conversation will be really present in our minds when we meet again in October to plan the 2027 budget. And so I'm pleased about that, because I think we decisions, and I think we really need to take advantage of Jim's extensive knowledge of our facilities in this county. Jim, I have no idea how long you want to need to work with the county, but I hope it's a long time. But just in case it's not, we definitely need to take advantage of that knowledge while we can. So thank Jim.
One thing I'll just add is sometimes people have a tendency to ignore the infrastructure, and then it tends to get you down the road. And so thinking ahead about looking at infrastructure and being prepared for it saves a lot of money. So it's an interesting discussion ahead of us.
And I'll just get the roof fixed.
Yeah,
I mean, my goodness, great thing. Yeah.
Plastic.
The tarp bill is in buckets. All those in favor? 3 in favor, none opposed.
Okay, last one. We're still in the hot seat. Public safety bill.
And public safety, same thing right off the bat with water, ground maintenance. You know, the landscape plowing, cleaning and maintenance, that's all the same story, you know, contractual halfway through it. The one we got, that's a little bit of our advantage, I guess, because we're already 4 months into this budget is, that's why the building repair and maintenance is high. We had a boiler break, cost us a little over $4,000 to fix it. In January, we wouldn't have budgeted for it last year because it really, we figured we had 3 years lifespan left on those pumps and it didn't last, so we were there too. And then like Amber was saying too, we got a generator which powers the 911 center dispatch and the whole sheriff's side. We have 5 year on it coming up. Last 5 years ago when we did it was $1,700, now it's $3,400. You know, that's batteries, hoses and all, we have to have that generator, that's what powers 911. So now it's $7,000 building repair and maintenance, went to 12 in a hurry, just on those 2 items. Well, yeah, I guess, well, sorry, the boiler pump is down on heating repair and maintenance, but yeah, that's, the other one on building repair was that $2,000 manhole inspection. That's a preliminary inspection. We had, ARPA funds paid for HVAC guy, Armstrong Engineering, do a whole evaluation on the public safety building. All the humidity issues and all the money we spent over that building in the last 3 years is ridiculous. So he came up with a pretty good plan, but that's as, it was a manhole there, built over a spring fed underneath there is what he's saying. That's gonna indicate what we go forward with after that. That's why in the Capitol, I think it has a building, humidity thing on there too, that's next year, the year after. We've had quotes from 400,000, this last one was like 314,000. We might not have to do it after we take this manhole cover up and do a little more investigating underneath the slab, we'll be able to determine what needs to be done. So.
Will this also be part of the IT discussion? These, you know, the access control system?
Yeah, that's what,
yeah.
Other than that, yeah, it's, you know, a couple of things hit us this year that we've already fixed it. We wouldn't have guessed last year on, but hindsight's 2020, I guess.
Sure. Any other questions? Yes.
This total contractual, that's kind of a runaway train. The first from 23-24, we are at plus 16%. And the next year plus 11.5%. Now proposal 12.4%.
You have the.
You can make sure you're the updated.
Oh, we have a change here. Yeah, but the numbers are the same.
Where?
So total contractual and only the actuals, not the budget, or the money really spent. So 23 was 93,700, going up to 109,000.
Yeah, that was a lot of the ground, landscape and plowing. That bill jumped way up.
Yeah.
And then next year it went up to 121,500, which is 11.5%. So that's so much above inflation that I'm, or do we do? Yeah, it's the same numbers, then unchanged. And now this year we go up to 136,600. So why is this?
So a lot of it really, as Jim said, is out of our control. It's contractual. I think Bob made the point earlier, a lot of our contracts are people that we, do service with. They have an automatic increase each year. So a lot of this is built in. Maine Water was a big one. Our Farley landscape and plowing contract was a big jump in 2024. So that is a big, and then that's gonna increase, but I don't know if you can speak to any more details other than that.
Well, that's true, I mean, it was 121,000 actual last year, 136, yeah, there's a, 5,000 and 4 for the boiler, there's 9,000 right there just in those 2 repairs. That, that's quite a bit of the 4% right there, yeah. Those are big ticket items for $120,000 budget.
These increases, these annual increases, are they being negotiated or do they just tell us and we pay, we kind of, this is what we need to renegotiate these contracts?
Well, the contractual one that we're contracted is only 5%. Yeah, 5%.
They're negotiated at the beginning, but it
Yeah.
might last for 5 years.
Yeah, the 3-year contracts, they'll be up December 2027.
So it's 5 years and each year 5%.
Yeah, it's 3 years.
3 years, 5%.
3 years, 5%, yeah. Yeah, and then the building repair and maintenance, there's no contractual on that, that is where it hit. The heating repair and maintenance, we do have that, which is 4% with our HVAC contract, but then, you know, that's $10,000, and then we get hit with a $4,200 bill, so.
When these 3 years are over, do we have several, so we have a competition going on?
Yeah.
It's not just extending it for another 3 years. but
Right.
They all go out to bid, so we put together a package of what we need, everybody bids on it, and then we go with, and I think part of this is a good conversation for the capital plan, because again, if we had started tucking money away for the HVAC and for some of these things that we know inevitably are going to break or need repair, we wouldn't see this big of a hit because we would have that cushion, right? So I think that is a really important conversation, especially around building maintenance, to make sure we're building that into the capital plan. Because we have some really unique infrastructure, and we make sure that we take care of it. It's historical, yeah.
And you're like, we throw money in every year. This year, that 4,000 is quite a bit, it's usually about 2,000 a year, so. It's a 1980 boiler. Yeah, we've got that life expectancy up through that, will probably happen in 2 years. The building, yeah, that'll be a replacement. Given us 2 years left.
So how old is the building?
It's a 1980, the public safety building, 1980, it was remodeled in 2012. They kept the outside, they redid the inside, added new bathrooms and all that, kept the old boilers, new HVAC stuff at the time. But the sheriff's side, EMA side have separate air handler units, dispatch has their own in the back, all fed by a common boiler. So the boiler was kept as old, it's.
Okay, so you're gonna get it eventually.
Yeah,
Is the building, does it have another 30 years or?
Yeah. Yeah, waterfall and stuff,
Okay.
the slab is old, so, yeah, the slab, the outside wall and the boiler are 1980s.
We'll probably come up with a lot of numbers in the next year or two to just kind of figure out what we should do with that building specifically.
We can get grants for these big things. Question, can we get grants for like federal?
Some of them, yeah. Some of them, a lot apply more to the courthouse, because there's a lot of historical building grants. So those are some that we've been trying to take advantage of, but there are little grants here and there where there's one that's in April that we can do some building maintenance stuff for public areas. So we're always looking at those things. The problem is grants take a lot of work and they take a lot of reporting, and we are bare bones in our staff. It's the give and take, as the district attorney was saying, if you get $200, is that really worth the week of work that somebody did? So.
Anything else? Ask for motion for the public safety building. $197,442.
Again, subject to the 50,000 IT loan. Yeah.
Seconded, further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
He's on it, yep.
Okay, good.
And then the commission, take a motion to conclude the building maintenance quote is presented.
I make a motion to accept the budget for $197,143.
You will second it, any discussion? The discussion I will add is, this is a building that has been a problem for a long time. Air, the heat, and we've been throwing money at it for a while. And really, the problem is, it's cheaper to throw money at it than to build a big new building, but it still costs more than a building that would have been built better in the first place. And so we're stuck with it. There's a series of sort of those white elephant type things that we're stuck with, and this is one of those ones. And we've got to keep working on it. And as you're right, coming up with a plan beforehand makes a lot of sense. I don't know if funding that plan makes sense, but certainly having the plan in hand makes sense. And I think we've reached that point in the county's sort of governance that we have people in place who can put together that plan, which hasn't been true for the last 4 or 5 years. I think we're in a much better position to do that now. Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing as is now, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
3 in favor, none opposed.
Concludes everything on our list tonight. Before we adjourn, one thing I'd bring up, there was a number of us that are not, you'll still have a quorum. There's a few of us that are not gonna be able to make the 16th. And Amber had thrown out, if we move it to the 14th, does that work for anybody? Doesn't
help me either.
And the 16th is the presentation from our, I call them grantees, so they're nonprofits in our community that we help fund so that they can do great work for the community. So a few of them are presenting. It will be streamed live on YouTube, but I know they'd all be happy to talk to you after if you want to learn more about that before we get to the final vote. So whatever you need to chat with me after, to chat with them after, please let me know.
Nicole, you're still available? Okay.
So what are you planning to do?
No, we'll stay at the 16th. He was asking if we can move it to the 14th, but it seems to conflict almost the same amount of people in the opposite ways.
Yeah.
You'll have enough for a quorum.
Yep.
Sure. Quick. So 16 grantees, one of them is the Restorative Justice Project. And I'm wondering, do you know if the DA plans to attend that budget meeting?
Yes, based on our discussions, I have requested her presence at that budget meeting. I've also requested the sheriffs.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, nobody has anything else, I'll call for the motion to adjourn. Move second. Okay, those in favor? Thank you all very much. You went very well tonight overall.
And from the commission,
Make a motion, we adjourn.
we can realization that our next meeting is next Thursday at 11.
We have a meeting in
Tuesday.
We have a meeting. Good. All those in favor?